Evening. The October 10, 2023 work session of the Montgomery County Board of Education will come to order. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Please remember to mute all electronic devices. A majority of our voting members shall constitute a quorum for any meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Education. We have all 7 members present. A quorum is present. The agenda has been provided for our review. If there's no objection, I would like for us to adopt this agenda by unanimous consent. Is there objection to adopting the agenda before us? Is there objection? Hearing no objection, this agenda has been approved. There are several items that we are going to get more information on this evening as updates or items presented for information only. We will take those in the order that they are printed on the agenda, and the first item tonight will be Volkert. There's a Volkert update. Mr. Glenn Slater, welcome.
Thank you, Madam President, board members, Dr. Brown. This is our monthly update. Is this from May? We can use that one. I'm doing Park Crossing again. This work? Okay. Again, we're talking about the Park Crossing project again this month. The project architect is Goodwin Mills and Kaywood. Next slide, please. The overall site location of the field house is where the star is here, which is adjacent to where the band room is on the side of the school. Next slide. The project scope for the new field house is a new head coach's office, conference room, assistant coach's suite, a meeting area, a film room for offense and defense, team lockers, athletic showers, restroom facilities, laundry equipment and storage, an athletic study area, and an athletic weight room. Next slide, please. This is the overall floor plan of the new field house. It's about a 19,500 square foot building. The blue area that's closest to me there is the weight room. The coaches' offices are in green, and the film rooms. The purple in the center there is the restrooms and shower rooms. There's also work going on inside the school to enlarge the training facility there. As you can tell, this matches the existing school quite well. This is a front view of the field house. The stadium, the football field and baseball field would be behind that building at that point. Another rendering of the front. These are some interior renderings showing the locker areas and how the students' lounge area or study area is. The construction contract's been awarded to Bullard Cook for $8,838,000. We've got a pre-construction meeting. It's actually scheduled for this Thursday, and mobilization and construction to begin shortly after the pre-construction meeting is held. Now our minority participation report. On professional services, we've had $21,519,000 in contracts, and of that, $10.8 million of it is for minority participation or professional services, or 51%. That concludes our monthly update. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Keith, Dr. Keith.
Go back to slide 7, where you have the training room. That looks like it looks like we already have the existing training room, and you're out. It looks like you're tearing out a wall.
That is correct.
Curving it around. Hydrotherapy. What is that? You already all
It's
that.
the stainless steel tub that they put ice in. And
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you again. Are there other questions for Mr. Slater?
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we are ready to receive a report from our committee members on the Blunt-Wilson project.
All right. First, let me say thank you to Ms. Erica Watkins-Smith. I don't have a microphone. Okay, I'll call louder. Can y'all hear me now?
Just go over the mic. Just go over that mic.
Oh, sorry. This one? Yep. Sorry. All right. I want to thank Ms. Erica Watkins-Smith and Dr. Lisa Keith for serving on the committee with me. I'm Pamela Cloud. I am board member for District 5. The discussion today is about the unmerging of Blunt and Wilson elementary schools. At one time, we were considering merging Blunt and Wilson, taking Wilson and making it into another school and putting all those elementary students into Blunt Elementary. With the things that have come up in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a boom of housing projects coming up. Everything you see, Planning Housing Unit 461, Planning Housing Unit 356, 143, all of the green is new housing projects being developed. This, Boykin just came up in the past 2 weeks. Then it landlocks into Pike Road. But all of those are going to be new homes projects. They've got different project like phase 1, phase 2, but you're looking at those new houses within the next year, 2, 3 years. With that, let me get my phone. Hang on a minute. You're looking at an increase of about, 20, no, it's about 2,500. Help me. 2,500? Is that what? Hang on, let me get my phone out. Y'all, I can't do this. Well, anyway.
So about 8,000.
Okay, about 8,000 new students from ages 3 to 20. Is that
No,
correct?
not students, buildings. Buildings, houses.
So 8,000 housing units.
Housing units. Okay, y'all, I'm going to tell you this. This is not my forte. I'm going to introduce to you all Mr. Robert Smith and Miss Anita Bowen that helped. They did this. We just came to them. We were blessed to have this information from them. So I'm going to let Mr. Robert Smith talk. I just started the momentum to do this, and they took it, and because they're concerned with how our children are going to be able to move around and be in a school setting. Hang on. Mr. Robert Smith. Y'all, and Miss Anita Bowen. There you go. I'm better off with that. I don't think that this will.
Yeah, we'll try to do Good morning. Not morning, good afternoon. That's how hard I've been working all day. Still thinking that it's morning, but good afternoon, board members, Dr. Brown, superintendent, and general public that are here in attendance. I'm Robert Smith. I'm city planning director here at the city of Montgomery, and it's an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to always come before you with hopefully good information to share with you all as you go about your business of doing the business of the students and the parents that live not just in the city of Montgomery, but in Montgomery County as a whole. We were asked by your committee to provide information in the way of population and additional housing developments that are actually going on or proposed to be going on out in this particular area over the course of the next 1 to 5 to 10 years, which is going to be likely the build out of that over the course of time. And I'm not going to speak much because I'm going to eventually turn it over to Ms. Anita Bowen, who is our Geographic Information Systems Manager, who does all of our map making and database management for the city. But just to kind of give you a bit of an overview, you see a map right over here. It's actually a little bit larger over here on the map board than it actually is on the screen right here. So I'm going to try to focus on that, and we'll try to focus on that as the display because this is still a bit small. But what we've done is gathered data and real data and information which has actually gone through the city land use administration and regulatory control process, which is a department which is a division within a department at the city of Montgomery that actually manages the City Planning Commission. The City Planning Commission is the actual land regulatory body that actually hears land regulatory developments and decisions that take place across the city of Montgomery. But our focus area is this particular area in southeast Montgomery. So based on known data, and we've taken a conservative approach to doing this versus doing a lot of theoretical projections. These are the known housing developments that we have that are projected, not necessarily projected, but that are actually either under construction or estimated to be under construction within the next 5 years minimum, 10 years maximum over the course of time. And based on that data that we've collected, we've compiled a map where, based on everything that you see in green on this particular map right here, it's a total of a little over 5,100 new housing units that are either under construction or in the development phase for construction. And what that translates into for population equals about 13,218 people over the course of time. And what that translates into as a breakdown from ages 3 and below, 3 to 12, 12 to 15, 15 to 19, and 20 and above is a grand total of 13,218 people. We also provided to you all as board members, you have a package there that actually has the map itself and the tables that actually break that down. We did also get data from you all based on your facility study that you all are actually in the process of implementing through your consultant, project manager Volker. So we gathered the existing student enrollment for all of the elementary schools in the particular target area, which is going to be in that table that you have as the second page down on the very bottom. So you'll see that light green number shown in the enrollment and capacity per school is the actual enrollment based on the National Center for Educational Statistics at the United States Department of Education, and the capacities for the schools, for each one of those schools, whether that's Blount, Wilson, Halcyon, Johnny Carr, Booker T. Washington, and also Park Crossing. Those are the capacities that are showing there. And I'm going to stop right there because Ms. Bowen is going to really dig deep into the breakdown of the actual data, but I just wanted to give a kind of a high-level overview of what you all have. Anita?
Good evening, everybody. I don't know how much more detail any of y'all want. Start getting into math. I'll try to keep it somewhat high level. Please, if you have any questions about anything, let me know. So, as Robert mentioned, we started with housing developments. We wanted to know what's out there. And so we went through planning commission agendas and our city office and pulled together all of the development plans that are in process, that have been approved or are already on the ground. So all that area you see in green is going to happen. Probably the largest one is Goodwin Mills and Kaywood that runs all along Park Crossing. They have that laid out from neighborhoods A through E. A is almost done. B, C, I think that was B on the north side of Park Crossing there. And if you've been out there, you've seen the houses popping up. So a lot of this is already in process. The tables that we mentioned, if I can figure out how to make this thing point.
It's the next slide.
Oh, this is the slide.
Yeah, it's not gonna advance. He's got it.
Yeah,
No. That one.
there we go. And I don't know if they can zoom this in so folks can see it or not. But we gathered the houses. But now we don't know how many people are coming. These are just houses, right? So you're all familiar, I'm sure, with the census, whether you love it or hate it. It's out there. It's our gold standard of what's happening with our demographics. So we took the 2020 census numbers and total population and the occupied households and vacant households. And if you see the big red lines, those are the breakouts with census tracts. So there's a nice one running between Bell and Taylor, and then Taylor to a river that, creek that runs through. And then you've got the triangle between Ray Thorington and that creek. So occupancy across the board in this area is between 95 and 97. So pretty good occupancy numbers there. Didn't reduce our household count a little bit, but we did factor that in. We didn't want to propose 100%. If that's not what the area is seeing now. The new table came out just in May of this year that gave us the population statistic by age each year. So I was able to break those out, and I chose the 3 through 11 for elementary, 12 to 15, that middle, or 12, 13, and 14, 15 to 18 high school students. And I created a table with what those totals were for 2020. Use that to figure out a percentage. So we have this big population, but what percentage can we expect to be in elementary school? What percentage can we expect to be in high school? So we took those breakdowns and just applied the percentage from the 2020 numbers to the total households, numbers grown by vacancy and persons per household. And that's where we came up with these numbers that you have in your chart there by the age group. There's the table on screen here, the middle one closest to me. There's a little table at top and then a little wider table. That's the one that has the projected student population that's coming your way. The other tables just kind of give you an idea of where we started, census data, housing data, putting it all together. And these are your new numbers of students. And then, of course, Robert mentioned the capacity charts. Right now, I think the total was around 527 available space between Blount and Wilson together. And there's a projected total of, I think it was 1,600 students when these residential areas build out. So right now, you'd be over capacity. Granted, this isn't going to build out this year. You've got some time, but it is coming. And these are the numbers we were able to put together for you. So any questions on that?
I just want to make a comment and let the public know that we met 3 times and for over 2.5 hours to go over this. And when you look at this when you look at the 2020 census, these numbers were not given to us, nor Volker, nor anybody else because of COVID. We voted. I sat on a board that voted that we merged these, because we were decreasing in numbers. It took me to see the maps and see the increase in numbers to look at a no-brainer equation. What you have here, you can go out there near Pike Road, where we're talking about, where these are at, you already see the plumbing done for 2 different apartment complexes. So you've got growth in major numbers. In 2020, they projected over 4,000. By 2023, right now, they're at 8,000. If you see the increase that we've had just in money, and the buildings that Volkert has had to take away from what we contracted out, which I still question, not going there today though, I'm talking about the numbers here. It is a no-brainer not to merge these, because if we do merge them, we're gonna unmerge them in a year to 2 years. So for people to look shocked of like, hey, 3 people sat down, it was more than 3 people. When you meet with the city planner, somebody that plans this city, and I'm gonna tell you, Erica said this to us 2 or 3 years ago. I wanted to pop her head back then, I wasn't really listening. But I will tell you now, you know, when her husband gets involved in it, city planner, I will tell you that a lot of what she's brought to this board lately, just from the time with the money that we got, the 33 million that we have, that all started with Erica. And I'm not tooting her horn, but I will tell you, I've started to listen. And listening tells me that this is certainly the no-brainer that she and Robert are telling you about.
And let me speak to something that I can speak to with authority. When we were going through COVID, our elementary children had a learning curve on how to do Zoom classes. Sometimes they didn't make it in for whatever reason, technology, but their average daily membership was not always being counted. These children didn't go anywhere. They just were not counted correctly because they were in that learning curve of how to get on Zoom in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. So with that being said, they were still here. The numbers are continually going up.
Yes, and that's one thing. At the time frame that Volkert may have been doing this study, COVID messed up a lot of things. The U.S. Census usually gives us the redistricting data in December of that year. We didn't even receive redistricting data till February, March of 21. And this data that I just got with the age detail, that just came out in May of this year. It is the 2020 numbers.
And let me interrupt, the Volkert report came out November,
Of
2021. And that, you know, hello, you think about how close that is to 2022. We've already doubled in money and had to decrease our gymnasiums, buildings, and so forth. So just like that changes, so does the population change. And fortunately for Montgomery, we're obviously moving forward in population. That's a good thing.
Just to add 2 more things. So there's a lot going on in this particular area and a lot going on in the city as a whole. As Anita said, we had to do the city council redistricting for the city, and all city council districts on the eastern side of the town were the only ones that actually gained population between the 2010 census and the 2020 census. This particular area right here, between Ray Thornton and Taylor, which is in City Council District 8, actually gained 3,000 people between 2010 and 2020. So another thing that's probably driving, so the increase in population is driving that. Another thing that's driving that are the industrial development projects that are coming, that are actually going to be on the southwestern side of the city. Everything from the new Amazon manufacturing facility, the new inland intermodal port, Mana Beverage, FedEx expansion, and a new Hyundai supplier. And that's just, those are the things that we know about that we can actually talk about publicly, but there are other things. And unfortunately for that side of town, there is no housing to actually put people, the people that are going to be, the influx we're going to have that are going to be coming to work at those particular facilities. So the developers are working for that purpose for the people that will be coming over the course of time. So.
And the Boykin, the yellow square?
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about Boykin. Boykin is an unknown this time because they have not submitted any development plans to the city. So we've just given some estimations based on the amount of land acreage that they have there that you all have, and the number of housing units that could be supported on that. But that, yeah, everything on the map here that's in the green and in the yellow is within the city of Montgomery. What you see in the orange hashes is actual Pike Road.
And that was contracted out just 2 weeks ago. That's why y'all haven't gotten.
Right. So that's
something we're gonna continue to grow.
that's the Boykin and Sidhu properties are brand new land sales that just transpired.
And so to that, I want to say, I know that our CSFO has always mentioned growth in our school system. So we're seeing the growth happening on the east side, and now they're looking at development on the southwest side. So we're seeing hopefully a lot of development that will increase our student population, which will help us out tremendously along, getting those foundational units, helping to reduce those classroom sizes, and having more revenue coming to our Avalon. So there's a lot of pluses behind the growth that we're seeing and the attention, and that the fact that developers are choosing Montgomery to come and start their businesses and develop houses here. The east side, of course, like he said, it matches what the census said. The growth was always there. When I brought it, that's what I wanted to point out, that the census is telling the story. When you go and you ride by and you see the development, the dirt being turned, the development happening as far as houses, the number of units being built, we are a choice city and a choice school district. So that's in and of itself is a good thing for us. And going back to your graph on enrollment and capacity, and you all mentioned this, we're halfway at capacity at these 2 elementary schools. And as the increase in growth happens, we will be pretty much either having to rebuild an additional elementary school and or middle school or add on to schools. So it's a good problem to have when we're being chosen to, as a place to not only move, but to educate your children, excuse me.
Thank you. All
Yes,
of
ma'am.
the comments so far have come, ladies and gentlemen, from the committee and their guests. So are there questions of the rest of the board?
Well, actually, but as we were making this decision to merge the schools, it was because we needed a facility for Baldwin. And when we look at Baldwin in that building that is extremely old, these are all great concerns, and we're happy about the increase. But we also need to be cognizant of the needs of our students, as this is one option, but we must look at the big picture and look at all of the options and look at what's best for the overall concern of our students. Baldwin must have a facility. We can look at this as one option, then we'll have to look at some other options and opportunities. And sometimes the end justifies the means by which we get there. So I just hope that we will look at all options, keep an open mind, and we do want to make sure that Baldwin will receive the type of school that our students deserve. It does not deserve to be across from the police station in a building that is almost 100 years old.
And landlocked.
And it's totally landlocked, So we'll have to, thank you for your hard work. We appreciate all of this information, and it just gives us more information so that we can make a wise decision and a decision that's best for all students.
No
Okay.
disrespect, Ms. Mitchell, but we all know that Baldwin needs a place, but to take a place and overcrowd other schools would almost be criminal with the knowledge of the data that we have now.
Well, I truly
Okay.
understand that, but we can also look at rezoning as an option. You know, that's what I'm saying. If we just sort of look at the big picture.
That was discussed.
Okay, ladies.
Why we voted. So let's go.
Right, we're talking across each other. I think, as has already been said, this is a beautiful problem to have. We authorized a committee because there was so much concern. The merger had already been taken off the table, and the studies were being done. So this committee was authorized so that they could gather information, and you gathered a lot of great information. We definitely appreciate that. And I guess you wanted questions. Has this information, other than tonight, been shared with the superintendent and his team? Okay, wonderful. You know, once this committee and the superintendent and his leadership team and those committees get all of this information, we're going to be able to move some things quite well. This, I think, is a wonderful collaboration, and I am so looking forward to how we're able to move forward. Superintendent Brown.
If I may just, well, first of all, thank you for a great problem. We enjoy a good problem.
Right.
Just so we have a sense of totality about the conversation. In terms of the plan that was approved by the board, I believe in 20, was it in 20?
Right after COVID.
In 2020. This was a portion of that entire plan. And just for clarity, the Wilson-Blunt merge was supposed to happen this school year. We decided last year to go study that a little bit more ourselves anyway, and I kind of already shelved it. We met with the staff out there in Wilson in February to say we weren't going to do that for this current school year. So we were definitely looking at this. These numbers certainly help us have a more holistic conversation going forward, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Glad to do it.
Again, thank you to our committee members, Mr. Smith and Ms. Bowman. We definitely appreciate your contribution to the work that was done by our team.
May I show the last slide, please? Or the second one? I want to tell you this. The PTA president from Blunt spoke to their PTA. The PTA president from Wilson spoke to their PTA. Park Crossing High School PTA president met with us also. So it was a collaboration of parents that represented the whole of the parents at Blunt and Wilson, and they were all very pleased to have a hope that these schools would stay in place, especially with our special needs population.
And I think I owe you an apology. On the screen is Ms. Bowen, B-O-W-E-N. My apologies. Thank you, Ms. Bowen.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Again, ladies, yes, I heard someone say good job. Good job. The next item on our agenda is the Montgomery County Board of Education's charter school authorizer renewal application. Dr. Nettles.
Good evening to the board, board members, superintendent, and MPS and the community. As a result of the new legislation that impacts, those changes impact this. Is it on? Okay. As a result of the new legislative changes, there is impact to charter authorizers. And each authorizer must reapply within 5 years of their original application. Our board's application original date is March 1st, 2016. That's the board signature on that document. So that immediately put us in a position to have to reapply as an authorizer. And so your board packet should have included the application itself. And so my question is, do you have any questions about the application?
At this time, colleagues, are there questions of Dr. Nettles? Dr. Nettles?
All is well.
Thank you very much. The next item, a data snapshot, Ms. Tracy Williams.
I know I'm not Miss
No.
Williams. Hey, good evening, Board President, Board, and Superintendent, and community. Today, the Academics and Accountability Group, we're getting ready to do a data snapshot. Most of the data you may have already seen, but we want to just give you a brief analysis of the data that we have right now and our next steps. We're giving you like an overall viewpoint. I know Ms. Williams is getting ready to give you the data, but let me just go ahead and give you a quick breakdown real quick. The superintendent already shared recently, a couple weeks ago, about the growth and the direction that we're moving in. He's absolutely right. Last year, we did make growth. We did make movement. We are moving in the right direction. That's something to be proud of. Today, we're going to dig a little deeper because we still have work to do. What you're going to see in the data as far as the ACAP data, the ACT data, our ready data, graduation rates, CTE, we're not there yet. So let's go ahead and get that out the way. We're not where we want to be yet. We have a lot of work to do. On one side, we have the State Department. The state of Alabama scores typically around 50%. If you look at the data for Montgomery, we typically score around 30%, so we're running below the state right now. But on the flip side, on the good side of it is, which Ms. Williams is going to give a great breakdown, we are showing growth. And that is going to be the key to the ACAP, ACT, that we show the growth so we can be proficient in those certain areas. Once she finishes her presentation, and Dr. Sibley give a brief snapshot, what are our next steps? We will talk about our success plan to move our district forward. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Brown and community supporters. We're done, but no, just kidding. I will briefly cover some information. Of course, what you see here, we can dive in a little bit deeper. So if you ever have any questions, you can always call me, always send me an email. I will be available to provide the additional information. So I'm not going to cover, because I can get long-winded. I am an educator at heart. I won't cover everything on this slide, but I will give you a summary if it'll work with me. I will just give you a summary. The ACAP program is the Alabama Comprehensive Assessment Program. That encompasses all of the assessments that we give in the district. However, I won't cover all of our assessments tonight, so just take a deep breath. We will only cover some data from ACAP summative grades 2 through 8, ACT with writing, and ACT work keys. And of course, as I get this to work, that information is to be used to make any personnel decisions, whether it's for instructional purposes, hiring purposes, as well. So when we're looking at the slide in front of us, it's referring to the ACAP summative ELA data for grade 2. On the left-hand side, as Dr. Lionbarger already mentioned, we have the state totals there. When we're looking at grade 2 and we're looking at the number of students that are proficient, we're looking at those students who scored a level 3 and a 4. That's our total number proficient. We're looking at grade level 2. They were tested in the spring of 2023. These are our current third graders. Why is that important? The Alabama Literacy Act. When these students are assessed in the spring, they need to make a cut score of at least a 434 in order to be considered on target for being on grade level, okay? So that's why we're looking at grade 2 from the spring, which are now our third graders. And Dr. Lionbarger is going to share some really great information in his part of the presentation as what's going to happen or what's currently happening in the district to ensure that we see growth and we see achievement with this group. So here, if you look at the slide, and I can't see, so the state, if you look at the state total, it's a 54% of students in grades 2 scoring a level 3 or 4. If you look at our district, we're at 36%. That's not too far off. Now, what we see when we look at this, there's a challenge here in Montgomery County. But when you look at the state, that means there's a challenge everywhere. So it's not just Montgomery County. We're all having those same challenges. And that's great, because what's a challenge? It's an opportunity to improve. And so we have some opportunities in which we can improve, and we have jumped on some great opportunities, and you will see that later on in this particular presentation about those opportunities and those strategies and those partnerships that in the fall, when you see me again, that's gonna be totally different, okay? Y'all can get excited about that, it's okay. With the math, just the math slide, looking at grade 3. Now for grade 2, that was ELA. Of course, we have the same type of data for the remaining grade levels, 3 through 8, but for time, we just looked at grade 2. Now for math, grade level 3, we're looking at the summative data. Of course, we have the math for the state on the left-hand side, which is 44%. Everyone was struggling in math across the state, not just MPS, everyone was struggling. And of course, we know we had learning loss. Students were at home. It's a little bit harder to try to teach math virtually. I mean, that's just it. So we're trying to catch up with that. But why are we showing third grade math? Because when we look at the Numeracy Act, these children, by the time that rolls out, they'll be in the 5th grade and they'll be impacted by the Numeracy Act, okay? So once again, some of those same great strategies and partnerships that have been formed later on in the presentation will help impact the outcome for these students as well. So as a district, we're at 23%. Okay, that's okay, because we can grow. This is only a baseline for growth. And that leads me into the growth slide. Growth, here. What is growth? ACAP summative growth. When you look at the same number of students who were assessed in the spring of 2022, that same group was assessed in spring of 2023. How did they grow from one year to the next? When you look at the next particular slide, you will see that we grew our students. If we can grow them instructionally, the achievement levels will come. That's going to happen automatically. But what we're focusing on now, this whole year, the whole Department of Curriculum and Instruction, we're focusing on growing our students. Because if we grow them, the achievements will automatically come. That achievement level, that improvement there will automatically come. It can't help but to come if you're growing. So we're looking at that same number of students who were assessed with us in the spring of 2022. They tested again with us in the spring of 2023. How did they compare against their counterparts that tested with them? So when we're looking at this, and you look at the state, we have 4 categories. We have category 1, which indicates very low growth, low improvement from one year to the next. Category 2, minimum growth from one year to the next. Category 3, average growth, which is where we want to be, and category 4, which is advanced growth. So when we're looking at the state's data, and we look at their categories 3 and 4, and you could be a level 1, you could be a level 2, or level 3 or 4 in proficiency, and that has nothing to do with your growth. I could be a level 4 and be proficient, but I might be a category 1 for growth. I didn't grow at all. I walked in this way, and I walked out that way. Okay? So what we want to see is, are we growing our students? And when we look at the state data, and you see that category 3 and 4, the state grew at about 59% of students in the state grew from one year to the next year, based on who was in the state when they assessed in 2022 as compared to 2023. Well, okay, yay, Montgomery County. When you look at category 3 and 4 for above average and average growth, we want to see growth. We grew at least 50% of our students who were assessed in the spring of 2022 and were assessed again in 2023, they grew. So we are growing. Now, some of the performance or the proficiency levels, did they automatically change? No, they might have grown within it, but they grew. And so when we're working with teachers and we're working with students and instructional leaders, the main thing to see is we are growing. We are growing. When we have over 50% of our students who were assessed, we see growth, either average or above average growth, the achievement will come. So that's something to be really excited about and proud of. And here with the same chart, we're looking at math. we saw how low our math score was. Okay, that's achievement. We cannot do anything about that right now, but we can look at this growth and see where our students are and how they grew. We are growing them, so there's hope on the other end of that tunnel. There's some light out there. So when you look at our district, once again, we have about 50% of our students growing. We are growing, so there's something that our teachers are doing. There's something that our instructional leaders are doing, and there's something that our students are doing because they are growing, okay? So that's the main thing, is to see growth. And with this, we have been tasked by Dr. Brown and Dr. Linebarger to work with our schools and our instructional leaders to find out who those children are, how to push and make sure we have that growth. So what we've done is we've looked at all the data, we've broken it down. There is a success action plan that each of the schools are working on. Each school, they have their own specific goal based on their baseline data. So goals can range anywhere from 7 to 12%. This is just an example of what this would look like at 7% growth. So when we're going into those schools and when we're thinking about who is it that we need to move, we know exactly how many children that we want to move. Then the instructional leaders in those buildings can actually put their hands on those students and say, I need to move these 50. I can look at their data. I know what the reporting categories are. I know what the domain areas are. I know who's on track. I know who needs support. I know how to move these children. And then in conjunction with all of our partners, all of the different strategies that are in line, all the resources, they're using those to ensure those students they put their hands on, that those students are moving, okay? So that's great. We've done the same thing with math. We know exactly how many children we need to move to reach a goal. So once again, on this screen, it's just showing you a general goal at 7%. But each school has their own particular goal based on their population, based on their demographics, and they know who they have to move, and they have a plan in place. Once you have a plan, you can tackle the problem. Once you have a plan, a challenge is not as challenging when you have that plan. Here in front of you, it's just the our ACT with writing scores. I'm not going to go over each level, but I do want you to look at level 4 and to see where we've had some increases. Of course, when you see that little green bar and you're trying to figure out what's going on with that green bar, that was during our, what time? Our pandemic time, our COVID time. So we dropped in some places where we didn't want to drop, and we increased in some places where we didn't want to increase, but that happened. It happened across the state, and it happened with us. But now we're back on track. We're back on track with increasing our level 4s. Now it moves, I don't want it to move. We increase our number of level 4s. We're increasing our number of level 3s. And the goal is always to decrease your level 1s and your level 2s. So that's just a quick look at your writing, ELA writing, your ELA math. If you're looking at level 4, if you're looking at your level 4 for, there we go. If you're looking at your level 4 for mathematics and your level 1 for mathematics, as we can see there, we did have an increase in level 1s, but we're coming back down to where we were. We had an increase, a slight increase in, a decrease in level 2s. We had a slight increase in level 3s and a slight increase in level 4s, but we are seeing some increases, and that is the main goal. At least we see some growth there. Come on, slide. I am trying to get to the next one that has the number of students to move for grade. That's it, okay. So grade 11, they're gonna have the same homework, the same work. They know the number of students they need to move for ACT with writing, whether it's ELA, whether it's math, or whether it's science, to make a benchmark to improve from the previous year. So when they're working on their Saturday school and they're working on ACT, when they're working on the platform, the ACT online prep. I need to put my hands at least on 462 students and make sure that they're reaching that benchmark score. So when they're assessed in the spring, I know I have moved this number and I know they've made this goal. Of course, we would like more, but anywhere we see a benchmark and we see a chart like this with a goal, that's the least amount of movement we want to see. We want to see more movement, of course, but they're going to be able to go in and put their hands on these students and invite these students to those Saturday opportunities, those after-school opportunities, those before-school opportunities. They know Tracy needs to be there, okay? Well, can you go to the next one? Because it's not clicking. Okay, great. ACT Work Keys. ACT Work Keys is the assessment for our 12th grade students. This was never an option in Montgomery County. We always made this test a test that all 12th graders had to take. Now in 2024, we know that all our 12th graders have to be CCR'd in something. So we were already a step ahead of the game. So that's one good thing there. So if you're looking at the ACT Work Keys, and you're looking at our platinum, our gold, and our silver, all those represent students who are considered college and career ready. And if you look at our data for 2023, you can see that our number of platinums have increased. Our number of gold certificates have increased, as well as our number of silver. What does that mean? When I graduate and I have one of these certificates in hand, at some jobs I can show it and I'm an automatic shoe-in, or it helps me with that hiring process, or some kind of training program. This helps me with that. So we want to make sure that our students are college and career ready, and we're on the right track, as you see here, okay? The graduation rate. This will be posted on our federal report card, which is not out yet. We're still waiting for that status report to come out. But when you're looking at what's going to be reported out in the fall, which is the fall, it was stated on last year, but it has not been reported out yet. Remember, the graduation rate is a year in arrears. So when we're looking at this, that 67.43, that's going to be on the report card that comes out, I guess, in a couple of weeks. Okay, that's over with. What we worked on and cleaned up for this year, we have a 79.39. Okay? With that, and I spoke with Dr. Brown when he initially came, when that 67 was there, we were in the middle, not only of COVID and the pandemic, but we also were switching over from Power School, from Chockable to Power School. A lot of coding, a lot of paperwork, a lot of things were missed. We put in place the fall of last year accountability check-ins with those persons who do the work in the school. We met with them virtually and or in person every month. We contacted them every week through the Office of Technology, Student Support Services, and I think Rhiannon is in technology support. We worked with them every week to make sure codes were correct, to make sure we were running no-show reports, to make sure we were running cohort reports, that everyone was listed correctly, because all of that impacts your graduation rate that's reported out. So even though that rate will be on the report card, we actually did a lot better than that. We lost some things in that transit, but it's okay. That was a learning process. So what we see now is at 79, and we worked hard for that. There was a lot of cleanup involved in that, but I can tell you what, in the spring of 2024, there'll be an even better cleanup. We're capturing more, and we're making sure that those codes are correct. When students withdraw and leave us, we have to have that documentation to get them out of our portal. If we don't, they're still ours, and a no-show will turn into a dropout. So that's why at the very beginning of the school year, we spent a lot of time on cleaning up those no-show reports so it won't be reflected in our graduation rate. But hey, that's our 12% improvement, and that's a lot, and that's great. with our CCR rate, I still have projected on this one because our schools are still cleaning up CCR. That portal is still open. We're still working on that. We did grow, as Dr. Brown mentioned, by 7%. I'm praying that it's going to be a lot larger than that when we finish that final cleanup. But schools are in the middle now of cleaning up to make sure that we're capturing all that data. As you know, when things are recorded on the computer or captured, if you don't click the right box, you might not receive the accurate information that you need. So we're taking time to make sure that's done and that's reported out. So here you see our overall graduation rate for the district, as well as in your packets, you have those graduation rates for the individual schools. And I must say, we are closing that gap between graduation rate and CCR. And with that, that leads into Dr. Sibley, who's gonna come into her new position with zeal and zest, and making sure that our students have the CTE part of CCR covered.
Thank you. Great job. Good evening, Superintendent Brown, board members, educators, and distinguished guests. I just want to take an opportunity to provide you with an overview of our Career and Technical Education, CTE department, the district-wide CTE programs we offer, and emphasize the importance of all of us promoting CTE throughout the district. Thank you. I would like to say the CTE department is here if y'all will wave your hands to everyone. We are the CTE department, and we are representing 17 CTE middle school teachers and 69 CTE high school teachers. Here are the middle school programs. There are 25 CTE programs available to secondary students. Beginning in middle school, we offer business and Project Lead the Way. In business courses, students learn essential computer skills to equip learners with the knowledge and skills for college and career readiness. Students participating in Project Lead the Way are medical detectives. So they are solving medical mysteries through hands-on projects and labs. They are measuring and interpreting vital signs. They are examining the nervous system and much more. All right, and so the high school programs that we offer, they'll be on 2 slides. So these are our high school CTE programs. High school students have an opportunity to explore different programs of study to include industrial maintenance, legal services, health science, education, business and finance, industrial technology, and advertising design, and that's just to name a few. If you can go to the next slide, and those are the additional high school CTE programs. And other offerings are junior ROTC for Air Force, Army, and Marines. We have marketing, restaurant, food, and beverage services, and those are just a few. All right, so the current slide is displaying our CTE certifications and completion cohort data for their 2022-2023 graduation cohort year. And I know the data is alarming. The good news is, yes, I am new. I've been here for 26 days, and during each day I have set aside some time to do a data analysis as well as a program analysis to see our program needs. The great news is we did have a lot of CTE completers as well as students who earned their certifications. However, that data was not submitted to the state, and that's why it's currently at 0, but that won't happen again. And also, we are implementing different processes to ensure that our data is accurate and up to date. So our department will be making a few changes to processes to ensure that our students are being credentialed as well as the state, and you all know that they are being credentialed. A few things we're doing is offering professional development to teachers. We have one scheduled on November the 7th, and this will give them an opportunity to learn about our new processes as well as credentialing. We have student support services with our career coaches who are helping with resumes and FAFSA and job shadowing. And I'll just go down to community engagement, which is very important, community engagement. I've already met with ALSDE, SREB, Trenton State, Junior League, Alabama Works, Alabama Office of Apprenticeship, the Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce, and many more. And I've already scheduled them and have been meeting with them. So we are creating and reestablishing relationships with our community partners to increase opportunities for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we were going to ask for questions, but go ahead. She wants to make a, no, your comment will be fine.
Is the principal of Impact here? I've never.
No, ma'am, he is not.
And, I know you're Brandon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity.
Can I encourage you to, as you reach out to your partnerships, that you also reach to the small business, because a lot of these children have parents who are in skilled trades.
Yes, ma'am.
And they have run businesses for long periods of time right here in Montgomery. So I'm sure, I know I've had a couple come to me, they would be glad to partner with you.
Yes, ma'am, and I wrote that down. Thank you. I
Thank you,
appreciate
and I
it.
think we jumped the gun. The
Okay.
presentation is not completed. Thank you.
Hey, data's long, guys. But I know this is what you guys asked for, this is what you wanted, so we wanted to make sure we give you a brief snapshot of where we are. It's very important to know exactly where we are. So you just heard where we are with the data. There are some glows, there are some grows. But the good news is that, number one, the person, me in my position, I believe we can do it. That's the key to it. I believe we can do it. The superintendent believes we can do it. I believe the board believes we can do it. And we have an amazing team of about 40 people who actually believe in the Montgomery Public Schools. And that's key. Superintendent talks about mind shift. I believe, number one, we can look at the data all day, but we have to make sure we change our mind shift. We have to make sure that we actually believe our boys and girls can do it. We have to make sure our principals, we have the right principals in place, and we have to make sure our principals believe that they are instructional leaders to do the work inside of the schools. We have to support our teachers and give them professional development. We have to encourage our parents to make sure that they understand that they're part of our team as well. I would like for you to believe that I can change the world in Montgomery Public Schools. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a whole collaborative group of everybody working together. And that's why we like to call it a success plan. So we know where we are. We know where we are with reading. We know where we are with math. We know where we are with science. We know where we are with the ACAP and the other tests and assessments. What do we do about it? So the first thing that the team did, we analyzed all the data. That's what we have been doing actually since April. We took a look at the data. We did like an instructional audit of the district as a whole of where we are. And some of the things I'm going to just talk about very briefly because I'm not going to read all this to you. It'll take all night. We want all schools to create a success plan. Each school should have a thorough understanding of their data, where they are. So we created a success plan with a laser focus to help move our schools forward when you look at the accountability part. So when it comes to resources, we took all the guesswork out. Schools cannot just use any resources that they want to use anymore. So we streamlined all our resources. Number one, we adopted a core curriculum. We adopted an intervention program. We didn't do what we wanted to do. We actually are following the literacy task force. We're following OMI, Math Improvement, Office of Math. That was the key to it. We had so many people in so many different schools doing their own things. Although we want to give them flexibility, we really cannot allow people just to do their own things. That's why we have a team in place. We have to vet those resources. We have to vet those core curriculums. We have to vet the intervention programs and things of that nature. And so that's what we have done as a team. So number one, we have a core curriculum, which is very important, K through 12. We created an instructional framework. So that's our blueprint of what direction we're moving in. What are our do's, what are our don'ts? What do small group look like? What do whole group look like? Those things are in place. What specific strategies? I talk to teachers, I talk to principals at the leadership retreat. Some people had questions about what strategies do we use if students cannot hear sounds? There are a lot of questions about that. We provided those strategies. If you go back to the leadership retreat back in July, we already provided, we took a look at the data, we looked at all the trends. So what I mean by trends, like what do we see in the data? What do we see in the data? Is there a problem with geometry? Is there a problem with fluency? So we took that data, created charts, and right beside it, we put different strategies of how to deal with those trends that we see. That's how we close the gap. It takes away all the guesswork and the questions and things like that. The curriculum team did an amazing job creating a curriculum guide. The curriculum guide, the curriculum framework, is one of the best I've seen so far. I know I've been in 4 different districts. When you look at most curriculum guides, we do not provide all the details that we provided here in the Montgomery Public Schools. I probably can take a person from right off the street and give them the curriculum guide. And all they have to do is read the curriculum guide. They know which curriculum to use. They know which resources to use. They know which interventions to use. All they have to do is put it in front of their face and click the buttons and things like that and just practice with it. That's one critical step that the academics and accountability team did an amazing job. So when people say they don't know what to do, that's not true. That's absolutely not true at all. We have put the right guidance in place so teachers and principals know what to do. We just have to make sure that we take that initiative and do it. Education is not rocket science. It's very, very simple if we do the right things consistently. And that's what we want our team to do. Just basic resources real quick. Of course, we have the MTSS process. This is not an option. This is a requirement. We expect all of our schools to implement the MTSS process. This ensures that our boys and girls actually have great instruction. If they miss something, yeah, we're supposed to reteach. That isn't a requirement. That's something that's expected from the state of Alabama. And so that's a mind shift change. And that helps us close the gap a little bit more and more and more. So that's one thing we're doing. Before and after school tutoring, as long as we have the funding, that funding is going to run out soon. I know Mr. Watts is saying that. It's going to run out soon, but we have to make sure this year we really hit the ground running. We really target those students with a laser focus to see which areas that they're struggling in and make sure that we encourage our parents, or parents are listening, make sure those students are actually taking advantage of before and after school tutoring, and most definitely our summer initiative. And as you see on the chart, there's different resources and different suggestions and different recommendations, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 instruction. As long as we're doing all of these things and the principals take a look at this information, it take out the guesswork, and they create a success plan that will fit their school with a laser focus for their boys and girls, we can close the gap. Any questions?
Thank you so very much. Are there questions from board members? Okay, you do have one? Go ahead.
I have one, Dr. Dunbar. I know you say that they have it in front of them, they know what to do, no excuses.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm a emergency serve teacher. I have a good background in math. Little Johnny won't sit down, Mary won't be quiet, my classroom management is off. Have we kept the door open to still come to you and say, you provided me the resources, but I don't know how to use them. I don't know when to use them.
Oh, that's a great question. Excuse me, I didn't cut you. Go ahead. Yeah, that's a great question. I think the principal will tell you, not only is our door open, we are actually in schools 3 days a week. We're actually in schools 3 days a week. We actually have what you call principal chats. I believe we have a principal in here. This is one of the first times ever that we actually have principal chats where we actually either go see the principal or bring the principal to us. They have access to our whole entire team. So we have everybody there to answer whatever questions that they have, talk about whatever supports they need. If we have teachers who are struggling, for example, we have teachers who may struggle with classroom management. That's where our PD department is going to play a role. We're going to make sure that we're providing specific PD for classroom management. If I was at one school, elementary school just last week, the principal was saying that a teacher still just did not understand small group. So you know what I said? I said, because we already provided this information, I want to come and meet this teacher myself. I want them to walk me through it. And maybe I can understand what we're missing, even if they are non-cert. I hate we keep saying that because non-certs are amazing. They're fast learners, and they're more willing to learn. Older people like me with 23 years in, I'm not willing to be in as much. But we're here to provide the support for all of our teachers and all of our principals. So we do encourage them to reach out to us.
Okay, I'm about to date myself here, but I got a little confused when I saw the resources. Before that chart came up, all of my questions had to do with resources, but now I can narrow it down to my confusion. Okay. We believed in differentiated instruction.
Yes.
It was so important, and then I saw your daily tiered instruction.
Yes.
So yes, I grabbed my phone and Googled it. but I didn't see anything, well, I think maybe it's woven in there.
Yes.
I've always lobbied for personalized instruction. And so is that where your DTI is headed, to more personalized instruction? And I think my question is going to be, help a layperson, because I'm retired, I'm a layperson now, differentiated instruction versus daily tiered instruction versus personalized learning, and are we weaving those together?
Yeah, I most definitely believe we're weaving it together, and many of those really overlap. I believe the main focus we should have is making sure we're reaching students at different levels, and that's the main thing. Reaching them at different levels, and when you look at the different tiers, for example, you're teaching to your whole group, and then when you get to your second tier, you're basically pulling the small group in. Then if Monty really still did not get it, that's when he actually needs an additional tier of instruction. So we want to make sure that we're providing them the additional tiers, the different opportunities of instruction over and over each day.
Okay, and one more in that same line of questioning. Do the students, and taking it a step further, even some of the parents, do they understand themselves where we're trying to reach them, what their goals and accomplishments are? Because I think when we did the first piece of the data analysis, the students need to know, if I scored this and I want to move, okay?
Yeah.
If you want to just go ahead and talk, because you already know where I'm headed with that.
Yeah, most definitely. In education now, we have what you have different options. Sometimes you have what you call like data notebooks, or you may have goal settings. We have parent conferences, and like especially when I was a principal, when we called the parents in, we allowed the student to actually talk about their data, so the student actually know exactly where they are. That's one thing we're trying to, again. It's a slow process, but many of those things are already in place right now. And so we're going to make sure that we continue those things. The students, they may not say, okay, Mr. Lombard, I'm actually in Tier 1. But they have a good understanding that Tier 1 instruction is going on and that we're using the core curriculum. The students know, and the parents know also, when a child is pulled back to the back of the room into a small group, they know that that's Tier 2 instruction. When the student actually is pulled with another person, maybe not the classroom teacher, and they use something like Spire. So when we see those deficiencies in reading, and we have another teacher teach them some of the strategies to increase their reading proficiency, we're using Spire. We all know that's Tier 3. Now, we may not spell it out for them, but they have a good understanding of the different steps. Processes.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm not as concerned about them understanding Tier 1, 2, 3 as I am them understanding, I'm having trouble with punctuation. I do well with end punctuation. But when it comes to those commas and semicolons, I just can't quite grasp when to use which one. Then you're focusing me here instead of making me do everything the entire class was doing. So
yes, ma'am. I agree.
I'm happy. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I did have a question. And to answer Brenda's question, I know that MTSS addresses a lot of the things that you talked about. The tiered instruction, the personalized instruction that is addressed in that process. And like you said, it's we're moving.
Yes.
We just gotta get everybody moving with us, but it is something that I can say that does exist in the schools. And in that process, it will also allow the teachers and parents to meet with the students and conference about the goals. And then plus they do other diagnostic testing throughout the year. And I can answer this because Dr. Lineford and I had a similar question too. So we talked about it because I wanted to know how that rolled out. But I wanted to also go to one of the things in our policies, because if you look at the ACAP and all the other information in our GPR, I know and you may have changed it, so you can correct it now.
Okay.
But one of the things that I've noticed is our students struggle because there's not a lot of reviewing, in my personal opinion. That's something that and I know that's done in MTSS, but during those tiered times of instruction, that takes place, we talked about, and in the policy, it talked about retesting, well, it said May, well, we know our students actually need to be reassessed and retaught as well for that mastery, so we can see that growth that we're wanting to see in the bigger data. But I was just wondering if that language and that verbiage has changed in that GPR so that we can make sure that our teachers know this is really an expectation and that it will be graded.
Yes, that's a very good question. We did change some language in the GPR. I'll have to take a look at it to see specifically which language we changed. I do know we made a few changes this year as it relate to words like may, but I do know the GPR for next year, we really did do an overhaul of many of those concerns that you're asking about. I would like to believe that teachers and principals understand the importance of reteaching without it being placed in a GPR. If we're doing what's best for students, I would like to just really believe that we are reteaching. We are giving students another opportunity. We're talking about standards, because that's what education is mastering the standards. It's not about who mastered the standard the first time. The goal to education is mastering the standard, even if it takes 5 times to master the standard. So your concern is a legitimate concern, and we're trying to change that mindset, and we're trying to clean up some of that language in the GPR. I'll go back tonight and just double check, and I'll make sure I follow up with you.
Thank you. And then I had one other question. I heard someone mention with our non-certified or emergency certified teachers, excuse me, I may have got, and they are hardworking.
They
But
are.
I do know that they're going through the educational pedagogy, and at this time, they're going to need a lot of support with those standards themselves, just to understand it and process it and be able to provide those instructional needs that we need, that our students need outright. But what type of other, I know there's professional development, but is it ongoing professional development? And just what does that look like for teachers out there? Because a lot of our students are sitting in those classes, and I was wondering, because it could possibly, maybe not, I hope
Yeah.
not, but it could impact some of the growth that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's a great question. I attended I would call it a professional development or a new teacher residency program today. A room full of new teachers. So I believe we were over there from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock today with Dr. Pelton's team. And so all day there's training about classroom management. I heard them mention letters, the science of reading. So they're getting those opportunities. And in addition, the curriculum and instruction team, we're providing support to the schools as well. When we have our principal chats, we're asking the principals specifically, hey, what do you need? Because the only way we know is if the principal, like in my position, the only way I would know if the principal actually communicate with me. Say, hey, this is what I need, this is what I need from you, this is the type of PD I need from you, and I can work with our professional development team to make sure we provide that professional development. But what's more important is, if you look at many of the schools who have reading specialists are getting top-notch training, and so they're able to go into the schools and train the staff right there in the schools. We also have math coaches. Math coaches are able to give that top-notch training and coaching immediately, whether you're a non-cert or you're a regular teacher. So we do have systems in place to provide that support. It will take some effort on the principal to be able to do those observations and walkthroughs who are there daily to be able to provide information to our team to say, hey, we need support in this area.
I have 2 more comments. One, I do hope we do change that language this
Okay.
year. I know next year
Yes, ma'am.
is coming, but this year, because looking at the data,
Yes.
we see that there's an urgency there. My other question has to do with CTE. So I'm sorry. And I'll make it real quick. So we have a lot of people in the industry who are definitely have the experience and all of that. I know it's very challenging to get them to come over into the educational sector, and money is really one of the biggest issues, because they can make more money out in the industry versus teaching. So I wanted to know, like, what are some of the things happening to make it attractive to hire people in the industry to come and work with our students?
Before you respond, I'm going to ask everyone to please speak directly into the microphone, because I understand that some of us are having difficulty hearing.
Thank you for your question. We are developing a plan right now to ensure that our wonderful industry workers will see working with Montgomery Public Schools is a great opportunity, and we should, I think, come up with different ways, I don't know, stipends, whatever we can do to get them to come here. We just had a teacher to take another job, because if you're getting someone offering you $80,000, $90,000 and we're offering you possibly 40 or 45, the no-brainer is they're going to choose something else. So we are trying to come up with a plan right now, and I will. I'm trying to contact different states to see what are they doing to ensure. So at the current, I don't have an answer, but I'm working on it.
And I appreciate you. I forgot 26 days.
26 days.
So that was a loaded question.
Yes, but I will send you a follow-up email to let you know how it's going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Dr. Linebarger, please.
Go ahead.
Dr. Linebarger, you were speaking of the reading coaches and math coaches, how important they are.
Correct.
Do you have enough reading coaches? Do you have enough math coaches?
Do we have enough? I probably would never say I have enough, but according to what the state provided us, we have enough for the schools who qualified for those. But the good thing about that is we have, with the board, you guys gave us the opportunity to have a district literacy specialist, and that person is actually working with the coaches, and we're training those coaches, and we have something called academic interventionists here. And so we're just trying to look at it totally different. We're training all of those individuals so we can spread them out to make sure we're servicing everybody, in addition to this amazing academics and accountability team, with them being inside the schools, with us making sure the reading coaches and the math coaches are acting as a team. So it's not just that, hey, they're just focused on their group. They can actually help everyone. So we're just really putting our brains together and just working as a team. Do we need more people? You always can use more, and I believe Mr. White's have a plan in place with ad valorem tax where that's already on the table. So I believe that's already going to be in process.
Well, I was concerned about math coaches because I know that our level of
Yeah.
academic achievement in math
Yeah.
is not as good as we want it, and that's where I would like to focus on getting good math coaches
ma'am.
in there to help do that. I mean,
That's a great
that,
idea.
you just made the statement, and that was my question to you.
Yes,
You know,
ma'am.
let's look at possibly additional math coaches, because that's where the boots
Yes.
hit the ground.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, are there other questions?
I have one more for Dr. Linebarger. Tutoring after school. It's imperative that teachers know that the end of the day doesn't stop.
Correct.
You can't put children in a group at tutoring and they come out with something. So if we can do it, if they're going to tutor, you've got to do what you did in the daytime. Same process, like you say.
Yes.
The repetitiveness of it. And I hope they'll do that. And also, I probably need to talk about this on the side, but it would be great to have a digital toolbox. That way, a new teacher can go to a computer and see something modeled. Because some people are visual learners. I'm a visual learner.
Okay.
And you can see it modeled and how it's done. And that may help, because we don't have it.
Okay.
That may help too.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Linebarger, Ms. Williams, and Dr. Sibley, we thank you so very much. At this time, absolutely, Dr. Brown.
Just really quickly, now that all the questions are out of the way, I wanted to add a little bit of context there also. Considering things we've done in the past year, we've done a number of different things to attack that data because we know we have issues we want to confront. We've done a ton of data cleanup. That continues. I'm gonna have to sing into the mic. Y'all ready? We've done a number of leadership changes across the district. As you know, there's been a focus on teaching and learning, not just instruction. We want an idea of how kids are acting. These mics are getting on my nerves. Focus on teaching and learning, not just focused on instruction, how kids are able to learn material and apply it in real life context. We went about getting consistency and alignment across our grade levels in terms of what we're trying to get done. And we had our resources on day one of the school year. As you know, many of the resources we purchased for last school year didn't get put in until last summer. Whatever we need for next year, we're already having those discussions, so make sure we can get those orders in. Just to give some context to the work that's been done in the past year.
Okay.
And we'll
Thank
have new
you.
mics next month.
The next item for discussion comes from Ms. Tamika Higgins. It's an iReady data snapshot. Not Ms. Higgins.
Not Ms. Higgins. My name is Stuart Greenberg. I'm with Curriculum Associates. By way of background, I was an educator in Florida for 40 years, dealing with these same issues. And before I tell you about iReady and what we do to help, I want to thank your district team, your leadership in professional development with math, with English language arts, and working with principals has really set the tone, and I'll show you some improvements in a moment. But iReady is a program, if you can go to the next slide, that's not working for, whoop, let me back right there. So what we provide schools, and we're in elementary, all of the elementary schools and the middle schools, two important things that you were just talking about. One, we provide a snapshot. Where are students today with an assessment in the fall, the winter, and the spring? And what that identifies for teachers is the personalized learning that some students need to fill a gap and other students need to accelerate. So no two students after the diagnostic are given the same computer-assisted instruction. We personalize based on the data, and we teach administrators and teachers how to go in and also provide teacher-assigned lessons to challenge and motivate all students. If you can go to the next slide. And so another thing, this is our total program. We have an assessment, takes about 30 to 45 minutes for students to complete. When students get done with that, something that we do that no other vendor does, we give teachers and administrators two important metrics. One is called typical growth. How much growth will a student make in a year? We give a second metric, which is called, we call it stretch growth. And what that does, when students attain stretch growth 2 years in a row, 89% of the students return to grade level. So when thinking about, when you were speaking about growth, we know if students hit our growth metric 2 years in a row, they will return back to early on grade level. To help teachers, we also provide print resources in an electronic toolbox that provides interactive videos for the teacher and for students. It's not personalized professional development like you provide in the district, but we do provide that information. If you can go to the next slide. Another thing, we're in over 200,000 classrooms in the state of Alabama, 94 school districts in total, and most importantly, if you go to the next slide, one of the things that is coming is the Numeracy Act. You also have the Literacy Act. We are approved by the Department of Education in Alabama to be used for that information, both for diagnosis and for intervention. So when teachers are looking to consolidate and focus on a few resources really well, we've been approved by the Department of Ed for the Numeracy Act and the Literacy Act, both for screening, diagnosing, and intervention. And then if you can go to the next slide. And so really, we give teachers one assessment, many data points, typical and stretch growth, which allows students in 2 years to come back to grade level. That conversation, those data chats, I'm in a school here once a month, 4 different schools, and working with both administrators and teachers to follow up on that data chat is essential. So we work with administrators about an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and then we're in providing that follow-up professional development right with teachers. And then if you can go to the next slide. These are all of the resources, too many for me to talk about in depth, but we provide online resources, customized lessons for students aligned to the standards based on their individual diagnostic score. We also provide print material for a double dose. So if students are going to after school or Saturday school, they can continue learning from the same materials. And then we provide aligned materials for teachers to provide that second and triple dose of aligned instruction, all to accelerate where students are going. If you go one more slide, the other unique thing that we provide, and I'll be going over this with elementary principals tomorrow, we provide a projected proficiency, both in the fall, winter, and spring. So schools don't have to wait to know if students are on track. If students who previously were proficient, have they regressed? How are we closing the gap, and how quickly are students returning back to grade level? So after each assessment in 3rd grade and above, we're able to use projected proficiency, and we're working on that same metric for 2nd grade because of the increased complexity and the assessment that we know Alabama relies on with 3rd grade assessment. Projected proficiency, tomorrow principals will set additional goals so that more and more students achieve proficiency. If you can go to the next slide. And so really what we provide is tailored support, diagnostic information, print resources, offline resources, this really great metric for teachers, because teachers want to know if students attain stretch growth, will they come back to grade level? That equals the growth factor for what you were hearing earlier tonight. And then if you go one more slide, and one more. So what we also do, we're working with 4 middle schools. Last year we worked with 4. We're working with 4 now, what we call the Principals Academy, to go after the things you were just speaking about, that you just heard about, ongoing professional development in schools, immediately provided, tailored to each school administrator, their leadership team, and then their teachers. So we're in 1 day a month, and then your curriculum team has called on us throughout the summer, throughout the fall, to help with alignment, to reduce the tools teachers are using. And if you go one more slide after this, if you can just click everything all at once. So really, when we're working in the schools, we're focusing principals on understanding the data from the state, the data from iReady, setting really strategic goals, ambitious goals, because we want to return as many students to grade level as possible in a year, 2 years at the most. And we know that we have a track record of doing that. And then really making sure that students understand, for instance, when I met with teachers today, showing them how to have data chats with students so they take ownership of their data. That's super important. It's a huge motivator for teachers and students and families. We also have family letters that go home about the results. And then 2 more slides. This is some of the results from last year where we worked with the 4 middle schools. And you can see in light green where schools went up by 1 to 9%, and then in dark green where schools went up greater than 10% in their overall proficiency. And if you go to math, we really saw some good increases on the next slide in the area of math, especially at Floyd and McKee. And I think one of the things that we saw there where the principals were following the data to a greater detail, they were following up, having incentives and rewards. And so we know that we can narrow this achievement gap, giving good professional development, good on-site support, and then working hand in hand with the district. So everything that we do, we email the principals, the district. We want to be the best partner possible. And I want to end where I started by thanking your district staff who continued to work with us this summer as they were going through a reduction in resources, thinking about what to do with summer school. They asked us to really narrow the scope of what we provided to accelerate students during middle school. So we continue the work. Tomorrow I'll be working with elementary schools. Today I was in Baldwin. And then I'll be over at Capitol Heights. We're also working very closely with South Lawn as well. And so we'll continue that work that we continue to do because really of the vision of your district. So we wanted to give you an insight as to what we provide and partner.
Thank you very much. Are there questions of Mr. Greenberg?
I just have one. Are you in any other state other than Alabama?
Yes, ma'am. We're in about 42 states.
Okay.
Yes.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Greenberg. Our next informational item is a status update on Imagine Learning. Ms. Shaniqua, is it Roberson?
Yes.
Welcome, and do remember to speak directly into that mic
I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Steve Santora, Account Executive for Imagine Learning. Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Superintendent Brown, Dr. Brown. We're here to talk to you guys a little bit about the data that you all have requested and that you gave some input on, but also to talk about how we're serving students and schools in Montgomery. So Dr. Roberson will give some data, and Ms. Gibbons is here as well to talk.
Okay.
So once we transition to the new building, we're gonna make sure Dr. Powell we won't anticipate any technology issues going forward. Where are we right now? Are we trying to pull that up? Out of curiosity, Madam President, if you may, point of privilege, while we're working at that tech, are we ready for the next presentation and we can come back?
No, he wanted to know if
Maybe
they
so.
were ready.
Right, that's what I just suggested. Can we pull that up? What are we pulling up?
Okay, the next one would be GPS Ed. We have two presentations coming, one from Percy L. Julian High School and the other from Johnson Abernathy grads. And if we are ready for those, GPS Ed, okay, looks like it's Johnson Abernathy grads, Dr. Carlos Hammonds.
Good afternoon. Well, Superintendent Brown, Madam President, board members, community members, I'm Dr. Carlos Hammonds, principal at Jack High School. I want to talk to you about GPS educational services. Currently, we work with GPS on two parts. Currently, we work with parental involvement. The next aspect we work is chronic absentee truancy, which our truancy rate is at 42%. I want to talk to you about GPS. we would like to utilize for us at JAG High School as an extended day for ACT prep. And using, based on data, I know y'all been looking at data all day, so I'm not going to drive y'all with any more data. I'm going to just point out some points. At JAG High School, our composite score, keep in mind math benchmark is at 22%, ours is at 13. ELA is at 18 for its benchmark, ours is at 13. Reading is at 22 for its benchmark, ours is at 14. So it's a tremendous gap for student achievement. That's the reason we're requesting GPS services, which will allow our young men and young ladies from grades 9 through 12, not just a particular grade level, but give them the opportunity so we can close the achievement gap, so we can cover those standards and objectives that they may have missed during the regular school day or in prior years. In doing that, it'll be small group settings. They'll be receiving instructions from certified teachers as well. And then close to in February, one of the things that we'll do, we'll target our 11th graders, which is the accountability area. Our goal is for those 11th graders to come in on Saturdays from 9 to 12, and we'll be intensive for the instructions for those 11th graders that'll be taking the ACT. In doing that, the statistics prove the more students are exposed to the standards and objectives and sense of success and pride, the more they achieve. So instead of putting it in front of them when it's time to take the ACT, we want to cover it throughout the process. In addition to, we also want to cover it with our 12th graders, just in case they haven't benchmarked on any area. It'll still give them the opportunity to take ACT work keys and obtain a gold or silver. That is our request to utilize GPS services at JAG High School.
Thank you. Are there questions of Dr. Hammond's? Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Did you say your truancy is at 40%?
42% to be exact.
42%. So they're not at school to make achievement.
Well, it's showing that they may be at school, but they miss a large number, over 18 days of chronic absenteeism.
So GPS will have a creative way, because if they're not coming Monday through Friday, they're going to get them there on Saturday.
No, ma'am. Their goal is to go out to the neighborhoods, go to the houses to find out what's going on and put different things in place so that way that student can come to school.
Good. So they are being creative.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there other questions of Dr. Hammond's? Ms. Smith?
I know you've identified the students. How many students do you expect GPS to work with?
The goal is, our target is about 300 to 400 kids. Because of our data and because of our scores, I can go based on the data from last year. 35% of the students in 10th grade right now are far below standard, below proficient. We only had 1% above level. 8% are on level, and 18% are approaching, and 36.9 are below level.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Hammond.
Thank you.
We are ready to go back to Imagine Learning at this time, I believe. Dr. Roberson, is it Mr. Santora?
That's correct.
And you'll introduce our third guest.
Ms. Gibbons. I am Dr. Roberson. I am one of the dedicated learning and development professional specialists for Montgomery. So we'll click to the next slide. Some of the things that we redid for Montgomery this school year was we started to look at some of the concerns that Montgomery had, and we met with the leadership team here at Montgomery Public Schools to talk about what we could do differently for this school year. So some of the things that we did was we implemented what we call the academic integrity tools that we have, where we did a lockdown browser for students. We did the IP registry, which students can't take tests or quizzes at home. All the tests and quizzes will be done at school. We also implemented the speed radar,
where teachers can see how often and how long students are putting forth effort into their coursework. And we also implemented the AI and plagiarism detector. We work with Ms. Sneed in order to get all of these things up and running. The other things that we did too is we did implementation guides where we created policies and procedures for the district across the board. We provided those to Dr. Linebarger and his team, and they reviewed those, approved them, and we gave them out to all the principals at the principals meeting so everybody could be on one accord of how to use the Imagine Learning services. And then we also email those out so they can have a digital copy as well. And once we go into the schools, I spend about 10 to 15 days a month in each school. And Ms. Gibbons?
Good evening, I'm Kimberly Gibbons, and I am the Professional Development Specialist with Imagine Learning. I support teachers on the courseware side who are using Imagine Learning to supplement instruction, remediation, ACT prep, etc. So we're in the schools 2 to 3 days each week.
And one of the things that we do, because we are dedicated to Montgomery, we do not meet with our teachers after school. We actually stay at schools the entire day, and we meet with them during their planning periods so we won't interrupt the process. When students use Imagine Learning, I actually do stay in the classrooms with them, and I train every student on what to do, give them their username and password, and then I stay with them the entire day. I follow back up in 2 weeks to see, let the students get acclimated to it, let the teachers get acclimated to it, then I come back and actually determine if they have questions and meet with them further. So we have a strategic PD that we implement throughout the school year for every single school that uses our services. Next slide. So, like we said, I spend about 12.5 days in a month in the schools, and Ms. Gibbons spends about 15 days in the school system. Every 2 weeks, we send the principals and the mentors data so they can see where their students are and give just suggestions on how to move them. The other big piece that we do too is I also do parent orientations with the parents. The principals can decide whether they want those to be webinars or whether they want them to be in person. So a lot of the schools do in person. And the other thing that I do is every Tuesday night, excluding tonight, but every Tuesday night, every Friday morning, I sent all principals a link where they can put in their Schoology for parents. They can send out via emails where the parents can click on that link on Tuesday night or Friday morning and ask any questions to support their students. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to make that connection so parents can know what their child is doing in Imagine Learning. And so we wanted to keep that communication going. So for the courseware side, we have about 1,633 students using courseware. That's teacher-directed. That's where your teachers use the program. They have about 3,577 active enrollments, and we're in 17 of the middle and high schools in Montgomery. And again, Ms. Gibbons goes to those schools to make sure that the teachers, because the teachers are controlling that program, she's training the teachers, constantly making sure that they're implementing the program and the best way to get results from academic achievement. And sorry, next slide. Instructional service is what we use for your teacher vacancies and for your credit recovery. So one of the things that we have right now, we have 1,383 students are enrolled into Imagine Learning because of teacher vacancies. That is a double from last year. Once we took this data, we had about 99 students to successfully complete
the course. As of today, when I looked at it again, we were at 149 to complete. And we have an end date for the quarter classes as of midnight. And when we talk about complete, we're talking about this teacher closed out the course. So, of course, instructional service side is where our teachers will teach the course, and they will implement still all the same academic integrity pieces. Our teachers contact parents as well. I contact parents also. And so we make sure that we are communicating with parents and teachers at least 7 days, once a week, because we know that virtual learning can be difficult for some. So we put a lot of things in place to make sure the students are successful. So currently we are using instructional services in 7 schools. And like I said, those are teacher vacancies, and they are credit recovery as well. I've sat down with all school counselors, and we have looked at the cohort group to see who's short credits and if they need to be placed in the program, because we know dropout prevention is real. So we went through, we looked at and did transcript audits to catch students who need to have an additional course that we can give them, because we do have a teacher that's monitoring these courses as well. So that is Imagine Learning and what we're doing so far.
Thank you very much. Are there questions?
I don't have a question, but just a comment. I appreciate you bringing this information to us, because there was a lot of uncertainty around the concept of Imagine Learning. So you clarified some things for me.
Oh, not a problem whatsoever.
I concur. She cleared all that up. Y'all have put some things in place that we really, really needed. So thank you for that.
Especially in the lockdown. I want to thank you for that. I still, just based on your data, like even at 99, you got 13%, about 13% that it's successful with. I know you went up to 149.
No, when we say that's successful, what we're saying, not successful, but classes are closed. So some of those students have completed early. Some schools decided to place them in by quarter. Some schools decided to place them in by semester. So we still have students that are in, because remember too that our courses are self-paced, but we do have end dates for those. And so we're just talking about students who actually completed earlier than their due date.
And like I said, I'm pleased. I mean, because I think with the lockdowns, especially on testing at the school, this stops a lot of the crap that was going on last year that I was having a fit over, ingenuity, such as kids passing chemistry in 3 days. And making a big with it, but that was our mistake. That's just something that I think has stopped with what you have implemented, so I thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am. And just to speak on that just real quickly, one of the things that I do, and I did it last year with the counselors and teachers as well, once we look at students, we really don't look at days, but we look at seat time, because sometimes with students, they can be in for a month and have 100 hours. And sometimes they can be in for 3 weeks and have 100 hours, just depending on how much time that they will dedicate to that. So one of the things that I will do is when a student closes a course early, I meet and get with that teacher who was teaching that class, and I say, okay, based off the speed radar check, based off of their communication with the student, what are we looking at, and then deciding how we're going to handle that class from there.
Additional questions? Hearing none, we definitely thank you again. I think that was Ms. Gibbons, Dr. Roberson, and Mr. Santora. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, we want to hear from Percy Julian, Ms. Davita Hill-Johnson. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And no, I am not Principal Lee. But I am standing in for him today. He did have an emergency. We had 2 recommendations for you tonight, one with Jag, one with Percy Julian. As we work to align our support systems and resources based on school needs, we want to make sure that we are providing students with the right support systems, and with expanding our evening academies, providing opportunities for students to grow academically, looking at multiple sources of data. One already been mentioned when we talked about the curtailing the chronic absenteeism, ensuring our students are college and career ready through monitoring of our district end of the year assessments, looking at our pre-ACT work keys data, our ACT work keys data, and our CTE indicators. You've heard a lot about data tonight, so a lot of the work that we've been doing, we're trying to make sure that we are streamlining our support systems. We're trying to be systemic with what we're providing for all of our secondary schools, especially with our high schools. Also, through constant analysis of data, these instructional leaders have identified students that are out of cohort, and they're trying to get those students back in cohort. And one of the key pieces of doing that, you have to make sure that you're being very transparent with all of your stakeholders. And when you are out there being boots on the ground, going out into the community, when you are advocating for your students, when you are actually getting to sit down face to face with parents, oftentimes they're afraid to come in school buildings. And we are trying to create an atmosphere that we create opportunities where we expose them, that we sit down, that they're not fearful of coming in, actually going through their students' or their child's transcript, and that we have some actionable next steps that we put in place for them. And then we have a goal-setting plan for them. But when we are able to go out into the communities and actually meet them where they are, that builds trust. And then that also gives us an opportunity to build that relationship and strengthen the relationship between home and school. And then it also changes the narrative for MPS. So this is just an opportunity with all of the other high schools that they are supporting. We want to make sure that based on the needs assessment, that we are providing the same supports and resources for the other schools as well. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Are there questions?
Taking away that stigma of whatever MPS means to them, and them getting to interact with you all personally helps them to build that trust back in us, and that customer service is just, I mean, really everything. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, for building that bridge back to the community. And my other question was, are there gonna be other high schools? Because I mean, that sounds really good. In the future, will there be other high schools participating?
Right now, we have all of our traditional high schools. So now we have all of our traditional high schools. And then they are also supporting a lot of our middle schools that feed into those high schools. So we're trying to grow that feeder pattern, because we have a lot of students that may be at an elementary school, a middle, and a high school. So when you are touching those students, that means you are touching a full family.
The whole family.
Yes.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, we thank you, Ms. Hill.
Thank you. Johnson.
I
Yes,
was about
ma'am.
to say Ms. Hill Johnson. Those hyphenations get a lot of people. At this time, we have a couple of financial items coming up, and we're inviting Mr. Arthur Watts to talk about the 2023 financial statement for August. And not Mr. Watts.
Good evening. No, I'm not Mr. Watts. But I'll be presenting on behalf of the Finance Department this evening the financials for the reporting period ending August 31, 2023. I'm sorry. Good evening, Dr. Brown, Superintendent, and Dr. Coleman, and board members. You should have before you the financial packet, again, for the reporting period ending August of 2023. The packet includes an explanation of the financial data, which is the CSFO discussion of the financial state of the district. You should also have a snapshot analysis, which is a brief overview of the district's financial position, a general fund balance recap, which is a breakdown of the general fund balance, also the monthly budget percentages. This is the 11th month of the fiscal year, so we look for our percentages to be around 91.67%. You also should have a monthly and annual comparative statement of revenues and expenditures. This compares our financial information or data month to date and year-to-date for the same period of the prior year. Also included is a statement of cash flow, which represents the cash received and cash paid out for the current month as well as year-to-date. There is a pie chart, which is a visual of the same information, cash flow information. And then finally, there are combined, our F exhibits, which are combined financial statements from the state's website. We have a combined balance sheet, which is the financial position as of August 31st, 2023. And then we also have a combined revenue and expenditures report, which provides an overall change in our fund balance. If you would turn to section 2 of your packet, there's the snapshot analysis where you can see what our actual revenues are as of August 2023 compared to our budget, what was budgeted for the fiscal year, as well as our expenditures. You'll see that our revenues as a percentage of budget are at 100%, which means that we've received pretty much everything that we've budgeted, and we've probably met the 100% because we had some additional revenues that were provided as part of state appropriations in fiscal year 2023 that are for fiscal year 2024. You'll see our expenditures are at 97.63%, which of course is well above the 91.67, but as we've stated in prior months, there is a reflection of the transfers outs that we've made to the reserve accounts, our capital reserve, our technology reserve, and then our central office consolidation expenditures. If you flip over real quickly to the general fund balance recap, you'll see that our general fund balance as of August is $88.5 million. The detail of that lets us see that some of those funds are actually reserved, specifically reserved for particular fund sources. You'll see that transportation has $5.7 million of that. That means that those funds can only be expended on transportation. There's $3.6 million remaining in our foundation, which will be cleared out as of 9/30. And you'll see that our actual local revenues that are available for expending is $69.9 million. And there are a couple of other fund sources, some grants and some charter school supplements, our state safety grants. Those are funds that we received in the fiscal year or in the month of August that are specifically reserved for those fund sources.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Watkins, are there questions of Ms. Watkins regarding the financial statement? Thank you very much. At this time, we are ready to receive information on 2024 proposed salary recommendations, and this will be presented by Mr. Arthur Watts.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Brown. We come to you to speak about or recommend to you a proposed salary changes in about 4 or 5 different position types. And I first want to kind of talk about how we got here. As you know, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've been talking about how can we be a little bit more competitive with other school districts that are in similar size and other districts that are surrounding Montgomery. As you know, we've been hemorrhaging employees in certain areas, and in many instances, our employees have left our district and gone right across the line, whether it was Pike Road or Tolga County or some of the other neighboring districts. So we wanted to attempt to try to keep our own, and not only that, but try to attract more employees for our own district. And that's what this attempts to do. I do want to say that there was 3 main objectives that we wanted to meet. Number one, I'm sure many of you all know that the state legislature approved a bill in the last legislative session that stated all employees must be paid $15 an hour. So that was a state legislative bill that was passed, and Governor Ivey did sign that into law. So that's what the first objective we wanted to meet. The second objective we wanted to meet, we wanted to be somewhat competitive, as I stated, with other school districts around Montgomery and other school districts that are similarly sized as Montgomery. And lastly, we wanted to ensure that whatever we presented, that we could sustain it. I think it's extremely important that whatever we do, we're able to sustain. We don't want to do something and then next 3 or 4 years, we're coming back and having to do a reduction in force or having to do some other things. So we wanted to make sure it was sustainable. Now, in many of these instances, we still may be somewhat a little bit below the market in some of these areas. We'll look at that, we'll see what we can do, and we'll come back and revisit a course in another year or so. But we certainly wanted to do what we could do now to try to stop the hemorrhaging and try to, provide our employees just kind of a better situation from a financial or fiscal standpoint. Okay, there's a list of the areas that we'd like to address currently. That's the area of custodians, child nutrition, transportation, our paraprofessionals, and our nurses. And we wanted to ensure that many of our employees that are lower paid was addressed first. Now, we do intend to come back, board members, over the next month or so to address clerical, to address the sign language interpreters, to address the maintenance department, and there are other areas that we want to address before we get to the area of administration. In fact, we want to address administration last, but we want to address all these other areas first. And I may have to kind of stand there to point at some of these things. You would note that in the area of custodians, first, as I stated, the state legislature passed a bill stating that all employees must make at least $15 an hour. And so you see right now, we're currently paying $13 an hour. So we had to make sure that we address that particular area to pay all employees at least $15 an hour. And of course, we also wanted to kind of show you what other school districts in this particular area were paying. And so you see, for custodians that are on 9 months, 187 days, we see that we're paying $13. We're currently paying $13 an hour. That's what's FY 2023. Of course, when FY 2024 began October 1st. And so the check for the end of this month, we must pay all employees at least $15 an hour. Again, the check that employees receive October 31st, effective October 31st, all employees must be paid at least $15 per hour. Of course, Autauga County, we see a $15.15 per hour. Pike Road is $15 an hour. Tuscaloosa County, $15 an hour. And these are districts that are comparable to Montgomery. Of course, Birmingham, $15.30 per hour. We're proposing $15 per hour currently for our custodians at 187 days. 240-day custodians, of course, we see $15.97 per hour is what we're paying now. We see what Autauga County, Pike Road, Tuscaloosa County, and Birmingham is paying those particular custodians. And of course, we're recommending an amount of $16.45. The head custodians, right now we're paying $18.37 per hour. We see the amount for Autauga County at $16.15, Pike Road $16.67, Tuscaloosa County $16.01, and of course Birmingham at $20.74 per hour, and we're recommending $18.92 per hour. And again, I just want to reemphasize again, one of the most important things to us was to be able to sustain whatever we were going to pay. In the area of food service, and there's a couple of statements I want to make about food service, I guess after I get done with explaining this. In the area of food service, we see our lunchroom workers are currently at $14.98 per hour. These are 6-hour lunchroom workers, 6.5 hours, and 7 hours. And most school districts do have various hours for their food service employees based on the needs of those particular schools. We see Otago County at $16.48 per hour, Pike Road at $15 per hour, Tuscaloosa County at $16.11 per hour, Birmingham at $16.79. We're recommending a proposed amount of $16 per hour for our lunchroom workers. And of course, we see the same amount for the 6.5-hour employees as well as the 7-hour employees. Of course, Otago County is paying all the same amount per hour. Pike Road is paying all the same amount per hour. Tuscaloosa County, the same thing. And of course, we see Birmingham, and so we're recommending $16 per hour. One of the statements I do want to make as it relates to our food service workers, all of them are on, is it a 187-day contract? On a 187-day contract. Now, we went and looked, when we studied this, we looked at the amount of days that other employees are working as it relates to food service employees. What we found is that on all of the other salary schedules, they're working 184. No one is working more than 184 days, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? 183 days and 184 days, while ours is 187 days. So I did speak with our CNP director. One of the things we want to do is propose that this will be for the next year, is that we go to 184 days as well. And speaking with our CNP director, she did state to me that they're kind of sitting around those couple of days because there's nothing going on. Our kids attend school 180 days, and so they're feeding them 180 days. The other 4 days could be used for professional development along with some of the other things. So really, we do not need any more than 184 days. And once we get it to 184 days, if the board approves that at some point, then that rate would be $16.26. And that is why you may see Tuscaloosa County at $16.11, Otago County at $16.48, is because they're working fewer days during the year. Because they recognize that their need really is for 183 or 184 days and not 187 days, which is what we're currently doing. Now, why we did that, I wasn't here at the time, but that's what we're doing. So we'd like to make that recommendation sometime next year. I think the schedules are already set for this year, and we don't want to kind of interfere with anything. Okay, let's look at CNP managers. This was an extremely difficult one. We have 12 salary schedules for CNP managers, 12. Other school districts do have different salary schedules for CNP managers, but the variation is much higher than ours. For example, you may have a CNP manager for every, let's say, 0 to 500 students, there's a certain salary schedule. Then from 500 students to 1,000 students, there's a salary schedule. And then from 1,000 to 1,500, there's a salary schedule. Then any school that has 1,500 or more, then that's another salary schedule. Well, ours is broken down where 0 to 150, 150 to 300, 300 to 400. So it goes all the way up there to around 1,500 students. So that one was extremely difficult. This amount here is the average, 1853, but we're recommending a beginning amount of $19.64. Now let's talk about CMP managers for a second. In studying the salary schedules of CMP managers of all these other school districts, the CMP managers for the most part is not beyond 187 days. Our salary schedule for CMP managers, 197 days. So ours is 197 days. Other school districts, 184, 183, 187. Ours 197. That is why our hourly rate appears to be so much lower than these other school districts, because they're working fewer days. And that's what we found in our study. So I did sit down with our CMP director and asked her, do they really need 197 days? And she said no. So that would be another recommendation that we'll be coming to you guys again for next year at 187 days for CMP managers. Again, our students are in school for 180 days. So that's when we're actually feeding the students, 180 days. So those other 7 days could be used for professional development and some of the other things of getting ready for that school year. So that's what we want to do with our CMP managers. Now, when we reduce the number of days, or if the board approves for us to reduce the number of days from 197 to 187, that hourly rate then become $20.69. So we are more competitive. We are more competitive than with the Pike Roads, with the Autauga counties. But the only reason they are more than us now, and that's what employees hear. They hear folks saying that, you know, these other districts are paying so much more per hour, but it's because they're working fewer days. And so when we kind of do the same thing, then we're right there in line with many of those other school districts. Our field supervisors, you see what they are making currently. The salary schedule started at $54,809. Autauga County Pike Road, they don't have any because they're so much smaller. But other districts that do have them, the larger districts, such as Tuscaloosa County, we see the amount. We see the amount that Birmingham pays, and you see the amount that we're recommending at $58,097. And I want to, you know, kind of say thank you to all of our CMP employees anyway. During the COVID period, Madam President, our CMP employees was on the front line. And not only that, I remember when schools were shut down, they still was out there providing curbside lunches and curbside breakfast for all of our kids. And so I think we owe them just a big thank you for all that they did. And I also want to say thank you all to our CMP employees also. We have a big shortage of CMP employees. That's because of the pay scale. And so you have some schools that may earn 5 CMP employees. They may have 3. So you got those CMP field supervisors that are in the kitchens working just as hard as the workers. They're right there with them. You have the CMP director they're in the kitchen working right there with them in order to make sure that our students are fed each and every day. So I think that's extremely important, and I just wanted to acknowledge them for that. So thank you all. And then, of course, we see our CMP director. We see Autauga County, Pike Road. And, of course, as you know, those districts are so much smaller than Montgomery. And, of course, we see them out Tuscaloosa County and Birmingham. And, of course, we're recommending $89,930 for our CMP director. Again, we wanted to make sure that whatever amounts we recommended was indeed sustainable, so that regardless of, even when I'm gone or whomever is gone, then that this is something that we could sustain. Transportation. Madam President, as you recall, about 2 or 3 years ago, we addressed the transportation salary schedule. We knew that we knew that we still were not competitive, but we wanted to do something to try to stop the hemorrhaging there. I think they were driving 2 and 3 routes, many of our bus drivers. So we were able to do a little something there. However, we still was losing a number of bus drivers to many of our surrounding districts. So we see what we are currently paying. Our bus drivers per hour, $20.79. Talker County is paying $23.18. Pike Road, $23.33. Tuscaloosa County, $21.12. And the reason I put $21.12 here in yellow was because I think on the report that we gave you guys, I think it had $24.24. And I wanted to show you that correction, that it was $21.12. Birmingham, $21.04. We're proposing an amount of $21.83. So let's talk about bus drivers for 1 second. Our bus drivers are on a salary schedule of 187 days. Kids attend school 180 days. I spoke with our transportation director and asked him, did we need 187 days? And he said no. Also, we looked at the salary schedules of all of these districts that I'm speaking of, the Autauga County, Pike Road, Tuscaloosa, and they're working
183. One district is Pike Road 178, and Tuscaloosa is also 183.
So you see, we're doing 187 days, and those other districts are doing 183, no more than 184 days. This is why their rate exceeding our rate by so much. So in my speaking with the transportation director about the possibility of us doing 184 days, he said absolutely, that we could do 184 days for bus drivers. This is something that we would like to recommend coming up for the next fiscal year since we already have the scales in place. So at 184 days, that would jump from $21.83 to $22.19. Well, now we're just as competitive with the Autauga, Pike, and some of these other districts, and I think we'll be able to sustain many of our bus drivers, or most of our bus drivers. Our route scheduler, you see the amount, $36,340 currently. Now, as it relates to route schedulers and mechanics and utility workers and those kind of folk, the state has a formula for transportation, in the area of transportation, where they earn route schedulers, they earn mechanics based on the number of routes that school district drive. That is correct, Mr. Thornton. So they earn a number of employees, and we'll provide you that schedule to show you how much each of those districts earn. Well, you see the route schedule, week 36, Tuscaloosa 53. Birmingham right now, they don't have an amount because right now the director is doing it, but he's saying they are about to hire someone, but he don't know what the amount is, so I didn't want to be, just put something out there. I just wanted to, kind of say that to you guys. But right now we're recommending 38,883.80, and the reason for that is I think we have a couple of route schedulers, and I think Tuscaloosa County, they have one, and I think we only earn one. But since we have two, so we just said if we ever go to one, then we'll look at maybe increasing this amount here. We're in how many? We are in two. Okay. How many we have? 3? We have 3. Okay. So if we ever go back to 2, then of course we can look at raising this amount here. Okay, mechanics. You see the amount that we're paying, $39,132. Autauga County, $44,887. Pike Road, $46,171. Tuscaloosa County, $47,392. Birmingham, $45,326. We were recommending about $44,414. If I'm not mistaken, I think just over the last month or two, Mr. Thorne, I think you all lost 2 mechanics. 3? What school district were that was? 2? So 2 to Lowndes County and 1 to Pike Road. And that was specifically because of our salary schedule. So in my speaking with Mr. Thornton, he did state that this amount here will go a long ways in helping us recruit our bus drivers, our mechanics, and possibly, hopefully, even stealing back the ones that we lost. But, I don't know if I should have said it that way, but hopefully getting back maybe possibly to some of the ones that we lost. Utility workers, you also earn utility workers based on the number of transportation employees. You see what we're paying, Talbot County 20, and you see that we are paying more except Birmingham. Birmingham pays $33,720. As it relates to utility workers, we earn 4. We earn 6, but we have 2. Is it 2? But we have 2. So that's why we say, okay, we have 2, we earn 4. Okay, we earn 4. So the amount is a little more than some of the other school districts, but since we earn more, then we say we let that amount kind of stay the same. Shop foreman, we see shop foreman, we're currently paying $54,809. Talbot County, $54,258. Tuscaloosa, $64,25. We see Birmingham there, and so we're recommending $57,549. Then, of course, we see the amount for a bus investigator. I think there was one school district that has that bus investigator. What district was that, Ms. Watkins?
Talbot County has a safety and compliance specialist.
Okay, how much is
54,258.
54.2. So that may be one we may want to look at again at some point, probably pretty soon. The transportation director, we see Montgomery at 83, Talbot County at 87. We know Talbot County is so much smaller than we are. Pike Road 78, Tuscaloosa County, we see what they're paying. Birmingham 89. We're recommending an amount of $93.48. Then assistant transportation director, we see what we're paying, $54,809. Tuscaloosa County, $102,000. Birmingham, $72,000. We're recommending $65,770. And I think that was a misprint. I think that should have been $67,000. Should have been $67,231 on transportation. Assistant supervisor. Yes, ma'am.
You said that the children are in school, how many days?
180.
And the bus drivers work how many?
187
And you want to reduce that
to 184.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We don't want to take it in the money away, though. We just want to
No,
reduce the days. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
But on the, over here in the red, it's your proposed starting salary.
That's correct.
Okay, but I'm confused.
Okay.
If we're gonna take the days off to match the other people and still give them a raise, we're
Well, we're still giving them a raise, but we're being a little bit more competitive in giving the raise. For example,
but
let's
we
just
don't,
look at.
we don't look competitive because we are competitive when we take the days away. We are competitive. You said that because you went to 22 from 20.
Yeah, we are competitive when we take the days away and go with this proposed rate here. For example, bus drivers right now. Okay, Talbot County, $23.18. Pike Road, $23.33. If we were to take 3 days away to 184 days, it'll be how much, Ms. Watkins?
22 is what you said.
For the bus drivers. I think it was $22 and something. It'll be $22.90 something. So we're taking those days, so it'll be 20. Now, right now, for this year, it's going to still be $21.83. But next year, when we make that proposal, it'll be $22 and some cents because we took those 3 days away. Because now there's a fewer days now, and we're even more competitive with the Pike Road in Talbot County.
Well, I think
Does that make sense?
on the math part, I haven't done it, but if you did that, you'd be more than 22 because you're already at 2183 without taking the days. If you took the days, you'd be in the 23s. I'm not arguing with you.
Right.
But I'm just, my
I can calculate. You want me? I can calculate it again
No.
real quick.
But here we are. We're with $33 million, and every board meeting we have, we're doing. Everybody raises, but not one time have we spent any money on the kids. So I have a real problem with this because it's raises here, raises there, raises there. But where did we spend money on textbooks? Where did we spend money on new things for these kids? I just have a huge problem. Take the assistant supervisor. I don't have a problem with the $2 here, $2 there. Okay, don't. But when you get down and you're looking at an assistant supervisor at a over $10,000 raise, woo. Hello, woo. You have me thinking. To me, if the public knows that they voted for that tax thing and it's all going to raises, I want the public to know that.
I'm sorry, that is not true, Dr. Keith.
How is it not true?
I'm gonna do a recap in just a second. As I finish up, I'm gonna do a recap on that. The other
Okay.
thing is that, and of course, we've been talking about this over the last several years, that we're trying to become a little competitive, not continue to hemorrhage employees like we've been doing. We cannot fulfill our duties to our students the route that we're going. And I'm really, really concerned about that. And as it relates to providing the educational supplies and educational service to our students, I mean, I don't know if you're gonna find a bigger proponent in ensuring that our schools get what they need than I am. There's no way in the world that I'll be proposing this if we were not getting to our principals. Some of them are here now, I understand, if they were not getting what they needed.
Okay, but were we not here just a couple months ago for transportation, and here we are right back again for transportation again?
Okay.
And at the time,
Mr. Watts, if you don't mind, let's try and get through this. And if we have something that's going to keep us here, a lot longer, maybe we can do a second. Okay.
Paraprofessionals, we are currently paying $15.52 to paraprofessionals, to both our regular paraprofessional and our pre-K paraprofessional. When the state came with a new state salary schedule for our pre-K paraprofessional, where we had to pay them at least $16 an hour, and that was just approved just this year. Also, our pre-K paraprofessional, there's additional requirements to be a pre-K paraprofessional, and we put that down there on that, the minimum requirement for all public and non-public school auxiliary teachers, child development associate credentials or equivalent required coursework. And so we're recommending for our paraprofessional from 1552 to 1614. We see what Birmingham is paying, and we see what Pike Road and other districts are paying. Also, for our pre-K paraprofessionals, from 1552, Ottawa 1672, Pike Road $16, and we're proposing 1676, which is right at the same amount as Ottawa County. Okay, nurses. As you know, and of course, there's been a lot of conversation about the shortage of nurses in school districts. So the state did pass a new nurses salary schedule for fiscal year 2024. On that nurses salary schedule, the one that they passed stated that nurses should be paid based on the number of years in public education. The number of years in public education. What we're proposing is, well, first we see the amount that we're paying now. You see what Ottawa, Pike Road, Tuscaloosa, and Birmingham is paying. You see the proposed amount that we're paying. We are also proposing for our nurses, because of our shortages. Let me just say this as it relates to nurses. Because in many instances, if you don't pay one way, then you're gonna pay the other. That's just basically how it goes. We are having to contract out nurses, and we're spending millions of dollars because we're having to contract out. And what we're proposing now is that for every nurse that we hire or bring in our current nurses, for every 2 years that they have in private, we provide them 1 year of public experience. Now, the one that they passed, they only paying based on public school experience. Right now, Pike Road is paying based on, I think every 3 years of private, they're getting 1 year of public education. Elmore County, they're paying every 1 year of private, 1 year of public education. So we're saying, or recommending every 2 years of private, 1 year of public education. And that way, we think we could be more competitive, we could bring some nurses in, or we will continue to pay millions of dollars in contracted services. Because we have to provide those nursing services for our students, and especially for our special needs students. Okay, now recap. So let's look at the cost. We see that for the custodians would be the majority amount, and we see about $528,000 is the amount that it'll cost the general fund. Now, the state is already proposing a 2% state mandated raise that goes into effect in October as well. And so that amount is gonna be $107,000 for custodians. We're proposing, to bring it up to the $15, $16 an hour. That'll be about $528,000, that it'll cost our general fund. Child nutrition, the total cost would be about $201,000. That would come out of our child nutrition funds and not out of our general fund. As you know, our child nutrition fund balance operates at a surplus, a several $1 million surplus, and they'll continue to do so. As our aids, you see what the cost is for aids. $25,000 for the aids come out of general fund. The rest of it is coming out of other funding sources. Then we have transportation, a total cost to the district, $125,000. Of course, transportation also operates in a surplus right now. What's the surplus on that breakdown of fund balances for transportation? Over $5 million, so over $5 million surplus right now in transportation. So that would cost the district $125,000, but transportation funds would be paying for that. These federal funds would be paying for this increase, except the $25,000 here. Child nutrition funds would be paying for the increase in child nutrition, but on our custodian level, that would be general fund.
Thank you. Are there additional questions?
I have two. On the nurses' schedule, Mr. Watts, could we potentially think about doing CTE like that to keep professionals in those skilled trade positions?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that we did put in that Arboretum tax is to incentivize for needed areas. So yes, so that is something we could do.
And if you think real hard, you'll know my next comment. The gatekeepers to the whole building, the mood changers, the ones that schedule, the secretaries. Okay, never mind.
Thank you. Are there other questions of Mr. Watts regarding the proposed salary recommendations? Thank you, Mr. Watts. And now we'll talk about transferring bank accounts.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Is that you?
Yes,
Okay.
that's me also. I think you all been receiving information in your weekly updates as it relates to the transfer of all of our accounts to Regions Bank. As you know, right now, we bank with Cadence. I think that was done during the state intervention. Cadence only had one branch here in Montgomery. So it makes it extremely difficult for us to meet all of our banking needs with that one branch. Also, with it being such a small bank, a lot of the other financial services that we really, really need for a district our size, we're not even able to get those particular services. Currently, Regions Bank pretty much services the grand majority of municipalities and school districts in the state of Alabama, and they curtail a lot of their businesses for school districts and for municipalities. And so we're recommending going back to Regions Bank, which is where the board was before I got here, going back to Regions Bank. Is that recommendation? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mr. Watts regarding the transfer of bank accounts? Okay, hearing no questions, we thank you again, Mr. Watts. At this time, we'd like to get information from Dr. Brown regarding Centegic's alert system.
Madam President, thank you so much. I'll be succinct. In reference to Centegic's, this is a platform that would allow us to have every staff member to have a badge that will allow them to alert not only us in terms of a building or district in terms of an emergency, but also our EMS and first responders would also get that information. It allows someone to lock down a building instantaneously. We know that some of the threats that exist in our world now and the way things look, we have to be as safe as we can possibly be. We want to put as many measures in place that can support that. This would be coming from ESSER $3 and would sustain us for a number of years. We've already done a pilot at Seth Johnson Elementary School, which I believe started in 2019 or 20. So we are already familiar with the system, and we'd like to move that to all of our schools in the district. So that proposal will be on for consideration tonight.
Thank you. Are there questions of Dr. Brown? Hearing no questions, we thank you again. And at this time, we move to the Dunbar Ramer school closure. Dr. Brown?
Thank you, Madam President. As the board is aware, we made some transitions with the students and staff at Dunbar Ramer. We started the year with roughly 40 students there. Obviously, that is not sustainable long-term financially for the district, nor is it sustainable in terms of programming for those students. We want to have them get an opportunity to interface with as many of their fellow peers in their classrooms as possible, particularly at middle school. Students in that particular school were not able to participate in sports. We now will be allowed in a place where those kids will have those opportunities. Those students will transition on today, and staff has already transitioned as well. We've worked with each individual parent to make sure they were aware of what the changes were and how we were going to support them in making those changes from a transportation standpoint and elsewhere. So we'd like to go ahead for consideration tonight will be a proposal to go ahead and close that building effective December 14th of this year.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions of Dr. Brown regarding this school closure? No questions? Dr. Brown, again, thank you. At this time, we'd like to hear about your Arboretum visit.
Sure. Thank you so much for having the opportunity. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Ringenberg, and I, we went out to the Arboretum and walked it. I would like to report to the board it's a fantastic space, and I'm glad that our staff has been able to maintain it in such a way that it has a potential to be immaculate. As an outdoor classroom there, and obviously you're aware of the things we've done in the past to utilize that facility. I see a lot of other possibilities, and working with the two gentlemen as we walked the property, we saw a ton of possibilities of what we could do, including potentially a cross-country course, archery. We could use it for various different things such as fishing camps and hunting camps. There are a lot of things we could do out there. We've had a preliminary conversation with the city about potentially partnering to do some things with walking trails and things of that nature. But this is a project that obviously will take some time to go through and facilitate in terms of what we want to do. We'll also be in contact with state or agencies from wildlife and fishing and gaming and any of those other organizations as well to support some of this work. So I'm just happy to report. I'm excited about the possibilities that exist out there, and excited about Mr. Ringenberg being with us to help us walk that facility. It has great potential.
Thank you.
Personally, thank you, Dr. Brown, for taking that on. Long time coming.
Thank you. Are there questions of Dr. Brown regarding the Arboretum? Thank you all very much. There are two items to be considered for your vote regarding Alabama Association of School Boards. We're looking at ratification of the AASB A-Team nomination. That was a nomination that I spoke about last month and asked that we make certain that our district was represented, and we left the table without a vote. The deadline was September 30th. So since we did leave without a nominee, and we wanted to ensure that we had representation, I will let you know that Vice Chair Cassandra Brown wrote a letter nominating Board Chair Brenda Doremus Coleman for that award, and this action item will be a record of support. Since the deadline was passing quickly, we wanted to make sure we were represented. But that's up to this board as to whether or not you want to support that recommendation. Also, AASB's Delegate Assembly will be on November 30th. We qualify for 5 delegates and 1 alternate. We must first determine who will attend, and from the information that I've obtained, it seems that anywhere from 3 to 5 of us might attend that. Therefore, we would have our 5 delegates if all 5 of those who said they might go. Otherwise, well, we don't need to take a vote, but we will make certain that we affirm those nominees for delegates during the business session. As far as new business goes, we provided some templates for what new business items should come to us like, as well as committee reports and just regular informational reports that board members would like to give. The template that you have is a template that allows you to do it online. So don't think we're only giving you that small 1/4-inch space to write in. If you're writing online, that space grows with the text that you put in. If you have to submit that on paper, it will be accepted, but it's designed for us to do online. Are there any questions about either of those proposals?
We won't be using this tonight, though, since we got this today, right?
Correct.
Good.
Okay?
And we can just send you an email, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, because it says charges, or it said charge, I guess we're like, what's,
Yeah.
put that in layman's
For example,
terms.
the committee that went out tonight, that presented tonight, your charge was to gather information, communicate that information to the superintendent and to the board.
But
You
yet
did.
we were reduced somehow to being a comment committee by somebody. At least, and I'm just telling you, we thought our charge was to gather information so that we could take a vote. And that's where, I'm just telling you where we were. I'm a little confused at to why we formed a committee. Because I don't know who came up with, well, y'all were just a comment committee. I was personally offended by that.
I don't remember, I don't know where that comment might have come from, a comment committee, but it was.
That we weren't.
It was a committee that was formed in order to communicate your information to the board and to the superintendent so that we could make sure we had all the necessary information. And as far as taking a vote, it would depend on what the vote, is.
Okay.
We can always take a vote.
Well, that's not if I can start with the new business.
Okay?
Okay.
We're ready.
Okay. On my new business, I wanted to bring up, again, something that we brought up several times, even with past boards, and that's about bringing up supervisors. I'd like to charge Arthur to kind of look and see, do we have the money, because, here we are, we've talked about mentors, mentees, whatever, and I get it that we have mentors for principals. Honestly, I think the rationale that was put into the board connection was a very good rationale. That it's kind of nice to have that before. Sometimes we get at the board, you get things that are just new to us, and we just don't have the time to really review it and understand it. With the rationale, it made me understand it a lot more. I am kind of volunteer teaching right now at Success Unlimited, and I am mentoring my son. Had I not been mentoring my own son on an emergency certificate, I would not be so apt to push the supervisors. I asked and never got. I did get from our superintendent, but I wanted to know the number of emergency certificates. I think it was like 346 or 380 something. Well, you add that to your first year teachers. I knew as a seasoned teacher that I would be wonderful for my son. That's I knew I would. But as days go on, I didn't think about kids with the sped. I've seen my son do things, and I'll go, Griff, you cannot do that. That's you would be fired for that. Well, how many new emergency teachers don't know that? Tons of them. And I'm not saying, I know when you do a feasibility whatever study as to can we afford it, one option would be to hire retired teachers to do this, because you could have elementary, you could have middle school, you could have high school. I can assure you, when you have that many emergency certificates out there, almost 400, and then you take our new teachers and they have absolutely no supervision. I know what I'm going through with my son alone. There's another brand new teacher over there. They've gone, Lisa, I wish you would help this guy. I've got the time to do that, but without it, how many are we losing? And how many lawsuits are we setting ourselves up for? I didn't even think about it until I'm midway through this quarter with my own son, and said, you'd be fired for that. You can't, you cannot do that. Not that he's doing a terrible job, but they have to know the laws, and they don't. Nobody's sitting there going over that with them. So I really want to push us having supervisors, whether it be in tune with retired teachers or somewhere we can't find money, just like we needed mentors for principals, and now I get that and agree with it. I think we need, it gives me an argument, or us all an argument, to have supervisors.
Okay, thank you. You want to respond to that?
I was gonna say, you don't get an argument. I think we want to provide as much support as possible. We've done some things with emergency service also. It's always in terms of support, but if we can have more, great. You won't get any argument.
Okay, thank you. Other items?
Yes,
Ms.
I have one.
Cloud.
I was looking at the state, Department of Board members, and they have an agenda, and they have a invocation, and then they have the Pledge of Allegiance. And the new leadership, I would like to have a flag, an American flag. I would like to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to have someone come in for an invocation, or whoever we want to invite in. I think that's important.
Okay, we've done that in the past, invited guests in, and we've also allowed members of this board to bring invocations. So, again, you get no fight out of us. Okay. We have any other items to discuss? Yes. I'm sorry. I saw your hand. I wasn't sure it was to speak.
My new business is probably old business, but it's new business again. The urgency of an attorney, getting those applicants and setting up something as we go into policy, as we go into our committees and we start to really dig deep to work. I just want to put that back on our docket.
Thank you.
I would like that in place so that when we're doing policy work.
I think Ms. Watkins Smith had.
That was one of the things I was gonna bring up to
Okay.
the attorney.
All right,
Can I comment on the attorney, please?
please.
The resumes are in the hands of the board members, and I've asked numerous times how you'd like to proceed, so we can roll whenever you'd like to.
No, that was for the board chair, not for you, Dr. Brown. So she'll know that we wanted to move.
Let's go, I'm fine with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were sent, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay.
And one last thing, I would like for us to consider, like the state board, where they do their board meeting first, and then they come back around to have their work session. So anything we need to consider, we can get in the habit of having a little bit of time instead of just a few minutes to make decisions on things. We have time to talk about it and really think, and then come back and vote on it in the regular board session, then have another work session. I'd like to flip those times, because that's the way the state does it, and it works out for them. I've been down and watched them several times, and it just runs so smoothly. You don't have
Yeah, okay, and I think that's, someone else could speak to it, but I think that's gonna take some transition, because the deadlines on the items that we're voting on tonight, we could not have heard the informational piece. So we're going to have to get a month ahead
That's what I
on,
think we should get a month ahead, because it gives us time to think through it instead of going away. Was that what we wanted to do? I don't mind going with recommendation, but give us time to think on it too.
We're not rushed on a decision. You have plenty of time. Either to, like if the things that she sent us on the state, you would, if we're gonna keep it the way that we do, then give us like, I think you said the state did it on like the 8th of the month, and then, or 1 week, and you had at least a week to look at everything, not just, because we don't wanna look at stuff on the weekend. So one or the other, we need to change, because we're making decisions that we're almost forced to make on that night that we find out that day. So it's just a consideration for us to vote on. Nobody wants it, that's fine, but if we do want it, it's something that we should at least discuss.
okay, absolutely. And I do remember putting that before the board about a year or so ago, when I asked that we meet twice a month, and I think this board voted, they only wanted the once-a-month meeting, and that's why the transition is so necessary. Because if we were willing to go twice a month, then we would have our informational session, work session, and then 2 weeks later, we'd have the session where we do the action items. But I think we have time to discuss that, and we'll bring it back to this body. Okay. And I'm sure everybody's delighted it's 8 o'clock. If there are no other items, the work session is adjourned, and please stay with us for our business meeting. Okay. At this time, the October 10, 2023 regular meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Education will come to order. And again, thank you for joining us and staying with us. Do remember to mute all electronic devices. We've heard a few going off throughout the work session. Again, a majority of voting members constitutes a quorum. We are all 7 present, and a quorum is present. This agenda was posted and made available for review. And I do ask again, if there are no objections, that we adopt this agenda by unanimous consent.
I have a proposal for the agenda. Under Madam Chair, I would like to add an item under number 9, consider for approval as item E, the final unmerging of Blunt Elementary School and Wilson Elementary School.
Okay, we will discuss that, the unmerging part, since they're not merged, so we wouldn't be unmerging.
But the recommendation, I don't want it to be. I want it to be, have them knowing that they're not going to be merging anytime soon. So I want to vote that that's taken off the table of the merging of those 2 schools.
I second it.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we take a vote to take off the table any mergers of Blunt-Wilson. All in favor? I'm sorry, absolutely.
So,
At this time, it is time for debate or discussion.
yeah, so I guess I am confused, or I need clarity, because I never thought that there was any discussion about merging the schools. I thought that with Dr. Brown and his team, we're having discussions, and then when we brought the committee of 3 to have the information brought that was presented tonight, I thought that that was information gathering, and I would hope that Dr. Brown and his committee, his team, would be able to digest that information and bring additional recommendation.
Okay, may I say something?
Yes.
Dr. Brown and his team didn't make these decisions decisions, the board did. And with that being said, what prompted me to kind of really start working on this is in Dr. Brown's board connections about 3 or 4 connections ago, maybe a month ago, he said, we're going to start looking back at the merging of Wilson Blunt. And I can bring that to you if you'd like to. That's what got this started. And although he said we put it off for a year, it's still up in the air. Those teachers are up in the air. They are losing teachers there because they're thinking, okay, next year I won't have a job here. And they're having to work to keep teachers there. And the parents are concerned. It's like they're up in the air waiting for the other shoe to drop. And
Well, who
we've gotten
closed
numbers-
it?
We've gotten.
I mean, who merged it? I
They
missed
haven't
that
been
part.
merged yet.
Okay.
No, but
So
the
I can comment.
recommendation for merging was put on the table before you got on the board, before I got on the board, when Volker came and made the suggestions to the board. And they accepted that suggestion because when I got on the board, I asked Dr. Brown, would he go and please speak? Because no one said anything to these parents at Wilson that their children would no longer be there and they would be merged into Blunt. Also, with special needs children, especially the autistic classes, they were concerned because you would end up having 8 special needs unit in one school. With that being said, that's why I brought all of that up. With the potential growth, we're gonna end up, if we merge Blunt and Wilson, it's already at capacity in the next couple of years. We're gonna probably need another elementary school out there. But I want Baldwin to have better, but there's not at the cost of that many children. I want Baldwin, we can come up with another plan. But because Dr. Brown said he wasn't gonna go talk to them because it happened before he was here. those
Dr.
were
Brown
work-
never said that.
Yes, sir, you did.
No, I did not.
Yes,
Okay, we're not going to argue. Go ahead.
But with that going on, I really have had parents to call me with great concern, and I told them that I would try my best to look into it. So with that said, again, I would like to add E, that we do not consider merging Blunt and Wilson, and I've had a second, so I think we should vote on it. If you wanna vote separately, that's
We
fine.
are-
We vote, we have to,
We are in discussion. We are in discussion.
Don't vote until we finish discussion.
Well, that's.
So,
Okay.
Dr. Brown, my question is, in my piece of the discussion, was there anything validated to say that there was gonna be a merger of the schools? Because if we did validate that, I have missed that point, because I thought we were in a study state right now.
Yes, as I shared earlier, the board, we inherited the plan in terms of what that looked like. That's the merging of the 2 schools. Last year, when it was under consideration, we looked at the capacity of each building and decided to put a pause on it at that time. We decided that last year.
Okay.
Otherwise, those kids would already be in that building now, based on the previously approved plan. We're doing a larger study of the entire district in terms of other rezoning that may have implications for any one move that we may end up making. So we'd love to be able to take as much information as possible into consideration, considering the whole district. I personally am not opposed to having, taking that off the table at some point. I'm fine with that. I couldn't care one way or the other. I want to do what's best for kids in terms of what we do with building capacity. My only issue that I would have is doing one move that then impacts others and not actually discussing those moves as well. The information we received tonight, very valuable. I'm glad we were able to get that. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention, because we were not able to glean that information ourselves. And we'll use that with any further considerations and conversations we might have that may bring about a recommendation down the road.
So it'd be premature to say that any changes are in the horizon.
I don't know that I don't want to put a judgment on it. I would, if it was my choice only, I'd use that as certainly one piece of information to make a larger decision. But, that's at the pleasure of the board.
Okay.
I think if it's at the pleasure of the board, then we vote whether we vote on it, and we do that vote tonight. Because, let's just see what the vote is.
Okay.
I mean,
Ms.
why do we have a
Mitchell?
problem with that? If we haven't merged, Why have, if we haven't merged yet, and it takes a vote to unmerge it, then why are we making, I mean, what, are we afraid of a vote tonight, or what?
Well, I'm confused what we're voting on.
On
Because if it's not been merged, how,
Okay.
We did vote to merge.
oh, okay, it's
we have
already on the
voted,
book.
The past board voted to merge.
Okay.
So that's why, so we are voting to not merge.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Ms. Mitchell?
I thought it was, you know, we did make that vote to merge. Then it was taken off of the table so that we could do further study. You brought us wonderful information. And that is something that we need to look into. Not only, you know, as board members, we are to receive information from the experts, and we got one expert. But let's look at the big picture. You know,
What other experts do we have besides the city planner?
We have to
Volker?
look at
Okay.
someone who's
That's not from
looking
here?
From the point of view of all of our people who are in the central office, how it affects every student, looking at the big picture for every school and making decisions that will be fruitful that will be best for each school rather than what one school wants. I have no problem with it. I would just like for us to have more time to receive information from the overview of the central office and everybody.
Okay. All right. Ms. Watkins Smith had her hand up.
Thank you. When this, even before the committee, I did bring it to the board's attention. Dr. Brown was not here at the time. It was a different administrator. When he got here, I had a discussion with him about it. It was very thorough. We went through all of everything as to why I did not agree that this school should be merged together. After that, the committee was formed to do the research, and in my experiences with committees, things come out of committee sometimes for a vote. The work that was done by the city employees was not just done with us as a board, was also done with Volker. I think we've clarified that a lot of numbers just were not in place. In fact, some of the numbers are new numbers. There's obvious growth in that area, and I understand that there's zoning that must be done, but the census shows that the growth is out east. So when we do the rezoning, that's still not going to shuffle those kids too much because the growth is out east. And at the end of the day, the development is happening along with additional development happening, which is truly showing us that there could potentially be a need for us to open another school, whether it's elementary or middle school. I understand everybody's pause. Trust me, I have gone through this myself to make sure, just for me, that this was a good move for students. I sat on the board when we sold Georgia Washington. I still didn't think that was financially, it was a good move, that's what they said. But when we look at the impact that it had on the schools that had to receive those kids and the overcrowding, it created a lot of bad situations from behavior. Not saying the elementary kids that what happened to them, but I'm just giving some backstory. From behavior to academics and achievement. There were just, and that move was not made. In fact, when we said no, the state said yes. And they didn't ask the community what they wanted. They did what they wanted. And we had to endure it and make the best situation for our children because they're still our children. This time, now I do think there was some politics possibly wrapped up in it, but this time it's something good to do for our children, especially when you're given this amount of research. The last thing I do want to say, and Dr. Brown, we've had this discussion, so I hope you don't mind me saying it in public. I extended him an invitation when he told you all what happened, because at the end of the day, we wanted to all make sure we were on the same page, and it was just a mix-up in communication, but at any time that anyone that had any concerns, 3 board members were serving on this committee, and anybody from central office, whoever he designated, could also have come in to, glean some of the information with us. We did this with the intentions of doing what's best for children, not trying to make, any uncomfortable accommodations for Baldwin. We want Baldwin to have a place to call home. BTW waited since 1992 to find a place to call home. Lovelace has been moved about 3 or 4 times before it landed at Montgomery Mall. And this
Okay.
time, we get a chance.
Well, there was another hand. Ms. Brown,
No, I respond.
okay?
And let me say this, I want better for Baldwin, but you have a car right there. You could take the funds that was gonna be to revamp Wilson to a middle school situation. It would take a lot to bring it up to that. Put that over there and do an addition at Carr, have a Baldwin car. They already have a magnet unit over there. Then you could just transfer those children over to Baldwin Middle and it all be there. There's property there for that.
I think if
Lady.
Well, just to say this one thing, I do want to make sure before we make any
Okay.
suggestions like that we meet with everybody. Before that, I just want to say that, before the Baldwin situation, I think that requires further discussion. That's all.
I'm not trying to
Thank
take
you.
away from Baldwin.
Ms. Mitchell had her hand up.
My point was that Baldwin is a specialized school that has, needs like BTW, that the teachers and everybody looks into that and it met their needs. And just to put in addition to another school, that's a decision that needs to be made by the teachers at Baldwin, the students, and making sure that the needs are met, not from us sitting here at the table today trying to make a decision and vote when we don't have enough information to us to make that kind of decision.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Call for the question.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that we add an item to our agenda, item E. And I wrote, take off the table the merging of schools, Wilson Blunt. Okay,
Thank
that
you.
is the motion.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor of adding item E to the agenda, let it be known by raising your hands. 4, all those opposed? Okay, it passes. Okay. It has been a long night, so, I'm sorry. Oh, we have to go back. Thank you. So now we will vote again on tonight's agenda with the added item E. All those in favor, raise your hands.
What, we voting on this again? Are we going
No,
to say it again?
that was to add the item. Now we want to approve the full agenda
Okay.
with the revision, with
Yes.
the addition.
Okay, yeah.
Approval of the agenda with the addition. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you. We're going to keep our remarks a little bit shorter than normal, to see if I can have you out of here by 8:30. I'm going to take personal privilege at this point, though. I'm happy that you're all here, but I do want to recognize Mary Briers, who not only is present, but has stuck with us for a long, long night. We thank you for being with us. Ms. Briers was a part of this, is a part of this family, and it's always good to see you. For President's remarks, I'm going to cut a lot, but I will say celebrating culture is very important to us, and our school district is home to diverse communities of people, and our schools are excellent spaces to recognize and celebrate our diversity. During October, we continue to celebrate Hispanic Latino Heritage Month, and yesterday, our district observed Indigenous Peoples Day. This month, we also pay homage to our principals, our custodians, our CMP workers, all of whom are critical to the functioning of our school system. There are great news items to report. I'm going to see if I can reduce those also. The Education Department has awarded over $35 million to support children. I tell you that because I did attend an advocacy day in DC recently, and a lot of good things came out of that. I think I'll give the rest of that report a little bit later, but several bills were passed while we were in DC, and I want you to know about those. But special thanks to community partners locally who give regularly to support our programs. At this time, I'd like to thank Commissioners Carmen Moore-Ziegler and Isaiah Sankey and Councilwoman Marche Johnson for their collaborative work with schools and the enhancement of teaching and learning environments in our schools. There are other partners that we can highlight, such as Burlington. As a part of their grand opening, they presented a check for $5,000 to Highland Avenue. Percy L. Julian High School hosted its first annual College and Career Fair. Congratulations to Lamp High School senior Madison Rudolph, who was selected to serve as a University of Alabama Early College Ambassador. Another partner, Tuskegee University, has partnered with Carver High School for Carver's new Ambassador Club. They are mentoring Carver students to prepare them for open houses and other events. Thank you to Montgomery County Probate Judge J.C. Love for helping raise awareness. He participated with us at Percy L. Julian High School on voter registration day, and this is just another part of his work in helping our young people have access and opportunity for voting, whereas he and his department placed kiosks in our local high schools at MPS. And finally, we recognized Floyd Middle Magnet Volleyball Team for winning the 2023 Tournament of Champions after an undefeated season. Thank you and congratulations to them. At this time, Mrs. Jones.
As you all may know, this week is National School Lunch Week, and we're really proud of our CMP department and all of the work that they do. And on behalf of our mayor, Mayor Stephen Reed, there is a proclamation, but I won't read it tonight. But we do want to thank Mayor Reed for recognizing the hard work that our CMP workers do in our schools and for our students. At this time, I would like for you all to hear from our CMP director, Ms. Jonna Beard. They have wonderful things going on, and I think that she should be able to share some of those things. So Ms. Jonna Beard, let's welcome her.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, I just want to highlight National School Lunch Week. As Jade said, the mayor proclaimed this week as well. It was brought to us in 1962 by President John F. Kennedy, and he just wanted to highlight the work that we do for our kids. Nationwide, we feed over 50 million students. I'm glad to be a part of MPS. We currently serve about 19,000 students daily. Since I've been here, which is going on year 5, we've steadily increased our participation, so we're really happy about that. We definitely want to move forward in making sure that we highlight our schools, that we market well, and that we're also improving the quality of our food through training and other things of that nature. We were nationally recognized for the USDA. It's called the Turnip Award, which highlighted our school service that we did in the summer. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you. And then moving forward, we want to engage our students more, so we plan on forming a menu planning committee to get feedback from our students and all stakeholders. We also would like to do a digital survey just to get some feedback on how our students would like to see the menu improve. So we're just steadily improving. We're hoping to increase our participation anymore. Our primary goal is to make sure that we feed the kids nutritious and quality meals, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, Madam President, real quickly, we want to take a moment to recognize October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We want to go ahead and play this quick video. Scott, if you can play that.
Breast cancer from a yearly mammogram screening. So I am 100% advocate for women to have their yearly mammograms. Then it came back in between your yearly mammograms, do your self-exams at home, because that's how I found it the second time. This time I had to undergo chemotherapy and radiation, but I'm cancer-free and God is good. How do you feel today? Wonderful. I kept working through it all. I have awesome supervisors, awesome co-workers that kept me encouraged and kept me strong. And the Lord and my family, they're the ones that just kept me going through it all.
What you all just witnessed is Miss Christina Glushik, if I said her name correctly. She works for our special ed department, and as she shared with us, she is a breast cancer survivor. So we wanted to take a moment to say that we appreciate all that support breast cancer awareness, and we are here standing with all of our survivors and those that are currently going through this moment in time with the disease. So if we can all just keep everyone in our thoughts as we continue to bring awareness to this disease. It is important that we mention that health is important, wellness is important in the school district. So please be mindful of making sure that you check yourself regularly as we continue to work to find a cure. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, one individual signed up for public comment. We welcome Ms. Demetria Dantzler to the podium to address the body regarding Wilson Elementary's inclusion unit.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Demetria Connor Dantzler. Good evening, Superintendent Brown, all board members, staff, community members. Thank you guys for holding out. This has been quite the eye-opener for me. But this will be another point of information. Dr. Brown already mentioned that there was a lot of information presented, including a study, so this is another opportunity to glean information as you stated. So, I am a soon-to-be mother of 4. I'm expecting my 4th child. I'm also the founder of Disability as an Ability Towards Success, Moms on the Move. We're a 501c3 that serves families of children on the autism spectrum, about 500 across the state. I'm here this evening to advocate for my son, Connor, who is in the 4th grade at Wilson Elementary, as well as the more than 700 Wilson Elementary students. Connor is currently receiving special education services in the inclusion unit, as well as speech and occupational services, and the utilization of a sensory room, which is not available at all schools. There is also a preschool at Wilson Elementary that serves different ability children, and several students have seen progress in both that preschool program as well as the K-6 special education services. Wilson can arguably be considered a facility with resources available to appropriately support children on the spectrum and children with different abilities. I represent myself as well as other parents who have brought their concerns to me, and they have the same stance that I do, that we don't want Wilson Elementary to close, and we are not in support of the potential merger that was on the books for last school year and in the discussion or study phase for this school year. So here are a few facts about the state of the special education department within the district. There is already a shortage of teachers, and in particular, special education teachers. The few teachers we do have, they have double and triple the amount of caseloads due to having to take on students who have missing teachers, missing speech and occupational therapists. My son's education teacher this school year that just started in August, she resigned on September the 20th. In my opinion, she was pushed out. She said, and I quote, "I cannot be an effective special education teacher in this district." The lack of support was not from her principal, but the district. My son has been without a credentialed teacher, and supposedly a teacher should be in place on October the 16th. Right now, paraprofessionals are teaching the students. Not that they aren't capable, but they are paid an unlivable wage, similar to our teachers. One aide works 3 jobs. So how effective can an aide be, not only for my child, but the other children? There are already major concerns existing within this district and the special education department.
Time.
So the dismantling of Wilson Special Education Department would be very detrimental. Dr. Brown, I listened to the State of the School address via YouTube.
Time.
I understand that, but I know
Thank
the other
you.
presentations were not timed either. Like, I sat there and listened to Mr. Watts and everybody else for a long period of time. If you could just let me finish. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to give Dr. Brown my card because he did say that he is willing to meet. And the experts are the parents, and we have not been invited to the table at all with this planning and discussion. So I look forward to.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, we'd like to move to our consent agenda, items A through I. Dr. Brown.
Madam President, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion for adoption?
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
I second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for items A through I on the consent agenda. Is there discussion or debate? Hearing no discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. Are you ladies voting? Okay, that's 5, 6. A consent agenda? Okay. Okay, so looks like it's 5. All those opposed, no. I'm sorry, raise your hands. 1. Thank you, it passes. At this time, we will look at considering for approval the personnel report, certified personnel. Dr. Brown.
Madam President, I'd like to make the recommendation we approve personnel report certified personnel.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for personnel report certified personnel.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for certified report personnel. Is there a discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. At this time, we are looking at item B, the certified minutes teams. Dr. Brown.
Madam President, I recommend the approval of certified minutes teams.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent for the certified minutes teams. Is there a discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. Item C, personnel report, classified personnel. Dr. Brown.
Madam President, I recommend the approval of personnel report, classified personnel.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
It has been moved and seconded that we do accept the recommendation of the superintendent for the personnel report, classified personnel. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. Item D, the closure of Dunbar Ramer. Dr. Brown.
Madam President, I recommend that we close Dunbar Ramer School due to low student enrollment and the recently implemented transition of students, staff, and academic programs of Dunbar Ramer School to other MPS schools effective December 15, 2023.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent to close Dunbar Ramer effective December 15th. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. At this time, item E, to take off the table merging of schools Wilson Blunt. Dr. Brown?
Madam President, I'm unsure as to what I'm recommending right now because I don't believe I have enough information to override a decision that the board has already made. I would want to go on record and say, and I'm not opposed to it, I just want as much information as I can so we can make a holistic discussion. I purposefully met with staff last year and postponed the whole notion of doing it for this school year. Certainly willing to do it again, but I just think we need more information before I can make a thorough recommendation.
Okay, so it is not the recommendation of the superintendent. So at this time, all those in favor of taking off the table any discussion about the merging of schools Blunt-Wilson, is there a motion?
I motion that we ignore our superintendent and that we vote to not merge Wilson and Blunt. Okay.
It has been moved and seconded that we take off.
Listen, wait, excuse me, Madam President, may I just say something right here? We're a whole board. We're gonna have to do this better. If we're going to let children and guide children, who are they gonna watch? Y'all gotta do better than this.
Okay.
That's my comment.
Thank you. I know what you're speaking to, and I probably, as the lead at this table, should have addressed the word ignore the superintendent. You know, we will not.
I will apologize for the word ignore, but nobody tells you what to do when we know we had 4 votes to keep it open.
There you go.
Okay. Would you like to restate your motion?
I move that we continue on with a vote to non-merge Blunt and Wilson.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that we move forward with the vote to take off the table any discussion regarding mergers of Wilson and Blunt. Is there discussion?
I know we're ready to go, but I just have one question. Okay, I am voting to say that we will not, at this particular time,
She didn't put a time on it.
Oh, okay, so we're saying there will be no merger of Wilson and Blunt.
Regardless of the findings of any other studies. It's off the table.
To include more findings of a study, not any other, but all the findings.
If we take it off the table, it's off the table.
Now, even if we find that it might be the best solution. This vote takes it off of the table, and my only issue is.
You're out of order. You're out of order.
That's out of order.
Okay, is there discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor of taking all discussion off the table, raise your hand. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, take off the table any, discussion of merging the schools, Wilson Blount. All those in favor? Right. That's what I said. Okay. Okay, you might want to write your, you made the motion, and you told me I was correct when I read it to you. Okay. All right, so, all those in favor of taking off the table discussions regarding the merging of schools Wilson and Blount, raise your hands. All those opposed? It passes. Okay. Hearing no further business that is to be brought before this board, you're reminded that our next meeting is November 14th, 2023 at 5 o'clock. This meeting will be at our Leadership Center on Union. We look forward to seeing you.